Do people with lower expectations opt for marriage? Okay. I read a really good article brought to my desk by No Saint, and I was like, this is kind of like how I feel about marriage and relationships. So we'll dissect that tonight. We got special guests. We got Huds, who's a relationship coach. We have his guest, Jaron Scott. Hi, Jaron Scott. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Now my the original players on the block will introduce themselves. Lily.
I am Lily from YB Limited. That's the letter Y, the letter B, the word limited, the way it is spelled here on the screen. You can find me here on YouTube as well as Instagram, Facebook, and yes, on TikTok as well. I started my career as a makeup artist, moved over to model and acting, and those roles led me here to the block with my team.
And I am Heron DeMarco, musician and multi-instrumentalist. You can find me on IG under Dangerous DeMarco, and you can find me under Spotify and Apple Music under Heron DeMarco. And yes, Kyrie, that's me who made the 70s bad guy music with my band.
Yes, the music that I was just playing is courtesy of Heron DeMarco. We have a very, very talented panel. Mr. David Hand, how are you, sir?
You notice she didn't include me in the talented panel comment.
Yes, you are. Yeah, don't be shy. Don't let everyone know.
I am so camera shy, it's ridiculous. I am David Hand, Mr. David Hand, a New York City, New York Fashion Week fashion model on those runways and shit. And also did a little time, a few decades as a corporate creative director. But I'm done with that and on to bigger and better things, among them being right here on the block with Jen and Co.
Huds, can you let the people know where to find you and who you are?
Who you be?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me again. It's always a great time when we're on the block. And as you said, I am a relationship and dating coach. You can find me Instagram, the Hudsman. From there, you can find everything else about me. I like to have fun and I like to help people.
Okay, and Jaron Scott, who are you, sir?
Hello, thank you for having me on the block for my inaugural appearance. I was invited by Huds. I cover a lot of the same topics he does. I wouldn't necessarily call myself a men's dating and relationship coach. That's one of many verticals I cover with my guys. So I'd say just in general, like a men's optimization and transformation type coach.
Okay, well, welcome, gentlemen. And we have No Saint on Color People Time. How are you, No Saint?
You've been around us too long, No Saint.
Yeah, you've been picking up some habits.
We can't hear you. But it look like you spitting.
Yeah. Okay.
Can't hear you, No Saint.
Jesus, No Saint. Let's get it together, bro. Come on, No Saint.
Can't hear you.
Late. Your mic ain't on.
He pulling assignment today.
What's going on here?
Can't hear you, babe.
I think he thinks we're joking, but yeah.
No, we can't. We're not joking. We cannot
really
hear you.
Yeah, you got to go out and come back in.
One of the few things we don't joke about: cameras and microphones.
Hello. Peace to the God said the music was too loud. Honey, that's what your volume button is for, okay? That's what your volume button is for. When things are too loud for me, I use my volume button. That's how volume buttons work, okay, babe?
That's always funny when I see people say that on YouTube or something. I'm like, you do have a volume button, right?
Right, you have a volume because it gets loud on the block. People know this. It gets loud here. The music, the talking, the disagreements, it can get loud. All right, guys. So since, I was late and No Saint is late, let's jump right into it. There's a lot going on. Again, we might not get to everything. Okay. I always ask my panel first, is there anything on your desk you'd like to go over? If not, we will jump into other stuff.
Let's jump into the fluff.
Okay, let's get to the fluff. Let's get the fluffing. Okay, so first thing on the table, I don't know if you guys know, but Larsa Pippen, Scottie Pippen's ex-wife, is now dating Michael Jordan's son. Yes, son, though she's old enough to be his mama. And the latest tea on that was someone did ask Michael Jordan how he felt about it, or does he agree with the relationship? And he said no.
Oh.
And he yelled it at paparazzi getting into his car with his wife. Okay. So what do we think? Michael Jordan finally, I guess you can say, broke his silence and said, no, he doesn't agree with the relationship, Larsa Pippen and his son, which I thought was really strange. Not because she's an older woman, because there are cougars out there, right? But because of her reputation, because of her look. I was just thinking a younger man, if you do want to do the cougar route, right, I would think he would opt for someone that's more
Polished.
more attractive, right? Not
That's
so.
ran through.
I don't know about ran through. I don't like using that because had she watch your mics because I got a lot of noise. Watch your mics, please. Not so much ran through. I don't know what her vagina's gone through. To be honest, none of us know. Okay, none of us know what's gone on with her vagina. But
Well,
I mean,
I'll call her vagina after the show.
Okay, please do. But her face it's very, very much put together. These wealthy women, they go through rounds of Botox and fillers and lip injections. And now it's like she's starting to look a little, how shall I say,
Feel
corpsey.
like yeah.
Corpsey, you know what I mean? Corpsey, embalming, and she's giving the embalming appearance now. So I'm just, being critical as I am. I would think a younger man who's wealthy himself, I'm sure he's going to inherit the Jordan, fortune. I would just think if you're going to go older, you'd go sexier and a little more put together. But I'll pass the mic on that. He says no, he doesn't like it.
Yo,
He probably wants a
real.
Oh.
Nope.
Go ahead, Jaron. Well, actually, you know what? Don't go ahead, Jaron, because I want to say this first.
Okay.
They were teammates. They were friends.
Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't imagine, like, let's say with Jaron, for instance, we're buddies.
Mm-hmm.
If Jaron out of nowhere starts, or he has a son that starts messing around with my sister or ex-wife or something like that, like, oh my God, what the heck are we talking about? That's why I think it's ridiculous.
Okay.
I wouldn't be too happy either. And the point I was getting at is it's Michael Jordan. He probably wants a grandkid, a biological grandkid that his son has with a healthy, young, fertile woman, right? I mean, he's a legend.
Jaron, did you hear that Larsa is willing to carry Jordan Jr.'s child? She's willing to risk him, being.
Can she? How old is she?
She's 48. 48 years old. What are we talking about, people?
She's 48.
They have the
and
money.
it's
They
risky.
could probably do it. But,
yeah, but it's risky. We have Down syndrome. We have, the older women are, the riskier it is for the infant. But she says she's willing to give up her womb for a gut full of Jordan, which is not a bad deal.
It's not a
I
bad
must
deal.
say.
There's worse deals out
I
here.
don't think
It's
they're
not
ever
a,
friends, though.
I was going to say that too.
Well, didn't they have a rivalry?
Yes.
Yeah,
Did
they
they
were
have a rivalry?
teammates, but I don't think they were ever friends. They were co-workers.
They
They were
certainly won't
kind
be
of like rivals, right? Like they were slick rivals.
Yeah.
There was some friendly energy going on over there. There was some friendly shit going on over there.
Okay.
And to
I
spend
think,
decades of your life in his shadow, and his kid is banging.
Hey, you can.
Okay,
Well,
good.
I think you
We
can
got
hear
you
me.
now, brother.
I think you can hear me.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's so yeah. Michael Jordan spoke out against it, which I could imagine if that were my son, I would probably do the same thing. I think as far as Larsa goes, I mean, this just goes to show you, like, Jen has been preaching this for a long time, and the more I look around, the more I realize that older women have a lot of options that men don't have. I mean, it's so true when I just look at it. Now, I mean, and if you got money on top of it, I guess that's not going to hurt either. But I mean, it's just like, I've been observing a lot, since Jen's been bringing this up, and I'm like, it's true.
I don't know what this hit the wall thing is.
Sad but true.
Yeah,
For-
well,
for-
I said, and maybe Jaron and Huds could speak on this, but I've been saying for a long time, there's life on YouTube and then life in the real world. Long as a woman is attractive, she really can get laid with anybody from any age. I've dated guys 10 years younger than me, 15 years younger than me, right? Of course, after a while, it wears thin because they just have a whole different world that they're in that I'm not interested in visiting for too long because I've been through those phases already, be it music or hobbies or whatever. And I'm kind of like stuck in the middle where it's kind of like men my age, everybody's knees are bad. Everybody got bad knees. I like physical activities, me, bouncy houses, bungee jumping, roller skating, ice skating, bad knees. Everybody got bad knees in my age bracket. So I'm kind of like stuck in the middle, but it's a good middle to be in. You know what I mean? It's a good time. But you're absolutely right, No Saint. There's this life on YouTube where it's like you hit the wall and nobody wants you, and it's over after the age of 25. And then there's the real world, and there's beautiful women who are older at lounges, and they're doing their damn thing, right? The only reason I commented on Larsa is because she looks beat up in the face, and I'm thinking if I'm just saying if you're Michael Jordan Jr., you have a plethora of women to choose from if you want to do the cougar thing. That's the only reason I say that about her, not because she's older. She's just like a beat up older. In my opinion.
Usher's always dated older, and they're always been attractive. You know what I'm saying? He has a type, and even Nick Cannon has dated. Well, I mean, yeah, but they didn't look.
Usher dates aunties.
Yeah, that's true.
He has a thing for aunties.
He does have an auntie thing.
I mean,
but they're not pulled.
But what,
no.
But what you're saying, all you have to do is observe. And I remember when I was, in my 20s, I wouldn't hesitate if a woman was in her 40s and looked good to try to speak with, try to hit on her. I wouldn't hesitate because you're right, Jen. It's like as long as the woman looks good, she's got, as you say, she's got millionaires calling her, or she got the young guy calling her. Yeah. And as long as now, I mean, if you're saying, well, you're going to hit the wall. Well, some women, the so-called wall they're hitting is they weren't really, in their 20s, they were cute, but it wasn't going to last. Eventually the age was going to catch up with them, but that's not everybody.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Can we address the elephant in the room?
Sure.
The 40 and overs are killing it out here. The 40 and overs are aging backwards. And the 40 and unders are looking older than us. Like, no tea, no shade. Like, we were talking about it over dinner, and I always bring up the firstborn challenge. When that was going around, that had me just stuck when I was watching everybody posting them with their firstborn. And I'm like, damn, your child looks older than you, right? So, like, the 40 and over now is not our grandmama's 40 and over. Like, this is a whole different world. And I was even looking at the people from my high school, right? Everybody looks good. Everybody looks good. And except like maybe one or two, but they were like on drugs really, really bad. They probably still are. That's those only two exceptions. But other than that, like black, white, everybody's aging really, really good. So I don't know what's going on. But it's too different. Like, it's so clear. It, like, when I'm out in the street, it is so clear. I'm like, what is going on?
I know we got a couple of younger people in here. I just want to ask one quick question. Has anybody gone to high school reunions here?
Oh, I have not gone to one yet.
Nobody. I've gone to my 20th and I think 25th, but it's kind of funny because I walk in there and I think to myself, who are all these old people in this, in this motherfucker?
My friends that look like their dads. It's insane.
See, my school, they not looking like that. I'm telling you, they looking good. I'd be like, okay.
Not everybody. Some of them, but I'm saying there's some in there. I'm like, oh my God, they had a rough life.
Oh wow, poor babies.
I mean, it's.
I think what it comes down to. I just want to say this before it loses my head. I think really what it comes down to, like, for instance, with myself, I was 23. Like, the biggest age gap I ever did, I was 23, and I ended up spending a night with a 42-year-old. So that's 19-year difference. So that to me was very exciting and it was fun. And yes, you don't want to deal with the old crankety knees you sometimes do want to have, some of that youthfulness. But if you're thinking long term, you can't really have a relationship like that because it's limited time. Like, wouldn't you want to start a relationship with somebody who's more your age so that you can spend that full life with them? I think that's really what it comes down to.
I think that's true if you're thinking of an early relationship, you know what I mean, young in your life. If you are over 40, I think it's a different story. You've already gone through your testosterone toxicity, and you're thinking about different things and valuing different things. So I think that gap, I totally get what you're saying and agree with it when on the younger end of the spectrum. But I think there comes a point where, you start. You're not contending with the same issues that you did in that age bracket. So when you're, excuse me, when you're over 40, it's kind of a different game.
I think it's no. I think it's something different. I have a theory. These fucking younger people are fucking slobs. You know what I mean? They have different ideas about being presentable. They have these notions of being fat shamed, and if you go to the gym, you're fat phobic, and you know what I mean, take me as I am, and these chicks got rolls on their necks, and then you're supposed to, you know what I mean, all in unison say that, oh, she's beautiful, oh God, you know what I mean, like, and I'm like, come on. And people who are older, we come from a generation where we understand, yes, appearance means something. Yes, it matters, and yes, I have gone to some high school reunions, and I've seen some women who used to look incredible, and at some point in time, they took their foot off the steering wheel, and their hand off the steering wheel rather, and I don't know, they made some certain changes in their lives, and it was what it was. But there's nothing worse than what's worse than seeing that is the woman who doesn't realize that she looks like that now because she still thinks she's the woman and the guy too that they were in high school. And when all that va 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 boom energy comes at you and she's trying to see what you're doing after, to get together, it feels creepy and weird. But anyway, I pass the mic on that.
I'll go back to the kid question too. So I've had experiences with cougars before in the past, and it is kind of nice as a guy. One, I live in Mexico City, so a lot of the senoras down here are smoke shows. They're absolutely hot because, especially if they marry into a wealthier or more well-off family, a lot of times they marry young. They marry a guy that takes care of them. They're well maintained, and their little job is just to raise kids and look hot. So they age extremely well. And then, the guy, a lot of times the guys have side chicks or whatever. Maybe they're still married, but there's an understanding. So I've encountered a lot of couples like that. And the wife she never went through that phase, that 20s or 30s phase. She was raising kids. So a lot of times she's a little more traditional. She's classier. She's well put together. And the kid question for me, I want kids someday, but not right now. That's out of the window. She's already done that. A lot of them have already gotten that taken care of by one way or another. So for a guy like me, sometimes a cougar is well welcomed in my life because she sees me as just kind of a plaything, so to speak. So she comes over excited and enthusiastic and she's ready to go. And then as other panel members have made the point, I look around at girls my age. I'm like, God, they look like they're older than my own mom. It's ridiculous. It's rough. They age like spilt milk, it seems like.
I don't know
Spilt
what's
milk.
going on. Like, seriously, every day when I go out, I'm just like, what is really going on? Like, what are y'all eating or not eating? What are you drinking or not drinking? What are you smoking or not smoking? Like, what is going on? Like, why are you looking so old?
Drugs will age the skin. I've noticed that with girls my age, like the raver girls, party girls that, okay, they engage recreationally, but that's every weekend. And then alcohol just destroys your skin too. That's just
and I also think the stress of actually giving a fuck what people think about them actually wears on them. Like, older people, you don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially, when you're from Gen X. We were raised not to give a shit. So, we don't carry that stress of always having to live up to someone's expectations.
But we also didn't have people who we don't know in our lives giving opinions on every little part of our life. To be fair, right? We didn't have that as well. We didn't have to come of age in front of the world because, like, think about it, right? we always knew child stars were, and if they grew up to be somewhat normal, that was like, wow, they got out, they unscathed or whatever, because it was kind of known that they had to come of age in front of the world, and that's just not natural and it's not normal, right? But now the average person, the average kid is coming to age in front of a bunch of strangers that are inserting themselves into their life. So, and that's their normal. That's not our normal. Like, we know how to just turn the comments off and put the phone down. With them, they'll just sit there and look like, oh my God, who hates me? Oh my God, everyone hates me. All right. Like, so it's just a different time period, I think.
Well,
So
clout's the new currency.
What was that, Jern?
Clout is the new currency for the younger
Right.
generations.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, something you said caught my attention, and it's a great segue to this age thing. You guys are all familiar with Miss Pearly Things, right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So she was on Twitter. There was this whole to do about age. I jumped in there. I'm not a tweeter. I'm not on Twitter. I created an account a long time ago, but I was like, oh, this looks like fun. It caught my attention. And I noticed that, again, there's life on the internet and then real life. And when I jumped into the fray of this mess, right? Men their retort was, yeah, well, you may be blah, blah, and you may have sex with somebody younger, but it's just going to be for fun. And I'm like, here's the thing. There's this huge misconception that only men have sex for fun, which is absolutely absurd. Like I said, there's life on the internet and then real life. I said, you say that like it's an insult. What makes you think I don't have sex for fun at my age, right? I'm not a 23-year-old budding woman looking for a husband.
Jen, we know you do. It's okay.
Well, first of all, I'm celibate right now. But yes, I have had sex for fun. Right? Everyone's not looking for a ring. So let me show you what happened on Twitter, and you guys can chime in. Okay. So this is what happened on Twitter. Pearly Things was being her controversial self. It's great for clicks and views and whatever. So she said this. Let me just remove the banner so we can read it. Pearly Things says, yes, you're less attractive at 35 than at 25 as a woman. This used to be common sense 50 years ago.
Oh, God.
So Sarah Gonzalez, who's a correspondent, she said, Pearl, this is you in your 20s and me in my 30s. You sure about that?
The read.
Okay. So I jumped in there and I was like, this looks like fun.
But hold on, can we go back to this? Did they really just say 20s?
Yeah, they said 20s.
Okay.
So then I had posted, I said, Pearl's in her 20s. This lady here, Sarah Gonzalez, is in her 30s. I'm 50. I'm not really 50. I'm 49, but I'll be 50. So I just rounded off. I don't care. So I was like, I'm 50. The math ain't mathin'. Right? The math ain't mathin'. So then Pearly Things, a lot of people were coming after her for her comments. So she said the actual irony of women with Botox screaming at me that older women are attractive is too funny. So then, of course, I clapped back and I said, no Botox, no fillers, a regular night supporting friends at a film festival. Now what? #50. Yes, at 20, you can have a womb full of eggs, but if no man wants to sex you, what's your point? Because usually the retort is, you don't have any eggs left. Well, I used my eggs. My daughter is lovely. So are my grandchildren. I'm done using my eggs, right? And isn't
that the fun part?
This is Pearly Things in her 20s, mid-20s, I believe, right?
Wow.
That's pretty common for girls in their 20s these days.
Wow.
Shit.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. I feel for you guys.
Damn.
Christ.
Got to be more careful.
Okay, so that's a 20-something-year-old telling a 50-year-old woman, there I am there. This was about a year and a half ago, that we're just not attractive. Here's Sarah Gonzalez, the woman on the right. Pearly Things is telling her she's not attractive, right? And it's interesting that the age, it's teeter-tottering. I'm wondering when it's going to get to teenagers. How low are they going to go with the age? right?
Oh,
Because
Right.
yeah.
because Pearl Davis is saying, yes, you're less attractive at 35 than at 25 as a woman. And we've heard men say if she has to be 20, and then like how low, you notice as more and more outrageous these podcasters get, the age gets lower and lower and lower. So where are we headed here? And what do you think about that exchange?
I thought it was very interesting because based on current YouTubian logic, Pearl
YouTubian.
is she hasn't hit the wall yet. This is a woman who hasn't hit the wall yet, and I don't know. that's prime stock right there. That's you look at that, you're like, yeah,
Oof.
yeah, I got to jump on that. Yummy,
Oh.
give me some.
She man, oh man, she looks like one of them women on South Park with the boobs in the middle right there. But she didn't hit the wall, she ran through the wall. See? That's what happened to her.
I have to say with this whole thing, I do find it very interesting as well. I do like what Pearl's doing. I like the stuff that she puts out there. I think that everybody makes mistakes here and there, and maybe it's just something maybe she's making a mistake on. But I also feel that she is just constantly parroting information that other people put out there instead of having any like unique ideas herself. That's just my personal opinion.
Well,
Well,
listen,
it's
I
not
don't
a
watch
personal
Pearly.
opinion because anytime anyone pushes back and asks one question too many, she unravels because those are not her. It's not coming from her mind, and
Right.
those aren't her talking points, so she doesn't have anything to reinforce them.
I don't watch Pearly things, but I've been on this show and I've heard two mistakes so far. I've heard the slavery wasn't all that bad. Was that her thing? Was slavery?
Oh no, yes, it was. That was so bad.
Yeah, that was
and now that if you're 25, suddenly, even if you're ugly, you're better than someone who's 30s or 40s. Yeah.
Not in 2023. Not in 2023. 50 is
Right.
looking a lot better than 25 these days.
Listen, when I got out of high school and when I got to my early 20s, I found older women attractive from then. I dated a 28-year-old at 21, 27, 28. But and then, I married someone younger than me. But I'm just saying, I've always, and even in the, now it's like I said, now it's even past into your 50s, 60s sometimes that you can find women. I find women attractive, older women.
What I don't understand is why the generations are colliding like this, right? When I was in my 20s, I wasn't thinking about who my 30-year-old or 40-year-old aunts were dating and vice versa, I'm sure, unless they were looking out for me and giving me advice. I don't see why 20-something-year-olds are so concerned with 30-something-year-olds and 40-something-year-olds. It's bizarre. But Kevin Samuels also made it a thing. Again, there's YouTube life and then there's real life. I just don't understand why the concentration and concern. You're 20-something, honey, your whole environment should be 20-something, right? You should be thinking about who's hot, who's not in your age bracket. But there's constant, oh, you hit the wall and then, whoever hit the wall, right, figuratively, is it really the business of a 20-something-year-old? That's how I look at it. Like, is it really let's say someone did hit the wall, the quote unquote wall. What business is it of a 25-year-old? You're supposed to be out there dating. You're supposed to be at bars or whatever, dating apps or whatever it is 20-something-year-olds do to date. I don't understand it.
Honestly, I kind of think of it this way. I think that a lot of people, or a lot of women, at least in that age bracket, that do speak a lot on relationships and act as if they have that established understanding of everything, yet they don't have anything to show for it, is that they're projecting, and maybe it's a way that they can project to kind of feel better about themselves. I mean, it's just an idea. But I've seen it not just with some of the things she said, but a lot of others as well.
That's the route I was going to take, similar to that. But I was going to say, I feel like it's a bit of envy because, like, we really actually get out and live for real, right? Like 40 and above, we know how to mix it with social media and real, actual living. And a lot of them have mastered those two things. Like, for instance, I remember my best friend and I went to Charlotte couple of years ago, right? We went to 3 clubs. I can't make this up. First club was like a younger person's club. When I tell you, club was cute. Cute club. Boring. I'm talking, they're just standing there, they're on their phones, no one's talking to each other, no one's dancing. It was horrible. Okay. Went from there, we went to Bar One, that's owned by Peter from Housewives, right? Now that was more of our age group, and they was having fun. They was getting it in, doing their thing. But that one closed a little early, and we was still ready to party. So we found this hole in the wall joint with like older people. When I tell you the motherfuckers was partying, like I was like, I mean, the light came on and they were still partying for another hour afterwards. And I was like, yeah, I can see why they feel a certain way by looking at us, because it's like, wow, they're really living, but I'm only living pretend via social media, like through my posts, right? But the moment I push upload, I'm back into a dark corner in the room doing nothing.
I found that my parents' friends party harder than a lot of friends or people my age. I went to a music festival a few weeks ago in California, and it was kind of boring. I remember, 10 years ago when I was in my 20s, when I used to do a lot more festivals, it was a lot more fun. People were having fun and mingling and hooking up on occasion, and just you were friends with all your neighbors. At this one, it was like really cliquish. It was kind of like high school. And I think going back to your point, I make this point all the time on my channel, which, Jen, by the way, I am simulcasting. So people directing comments at me, I think they think I'm the host, but I'm not. So just FYI.
No,
but
I can see. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
who is that guy?
I was like, yeah, that's one of my guys.
Okay.
But I make the point on my channel all the time that you have to live between the digital world and the analog world. I make my money in the digital world. I do a lot in the digital world. I'm thankful it's there. But the things I do in the digital world support my analog world. I haven't done content in weeks because I was backpacking around the Mediterranean with my brother. Didn't do a single video. And it was awesome. It was so great to disconnect. And I think a lot of young people, they get sucked into the digital world, like that movie WALL-E, the beginning, just a bunch of fat people watching the screens. And I think that's the newest generation. Mine's somewhat in the middle, so I personally need to strive to find that balance. Okay, time to put the screens down, go out, go for a walk, or go out and just meet people, or just say hi to strangers, and that really adds some balance to your life that I think a lot of younger folks are missing.
I think what we're missing here is a lot of nuance. Okay, generally speaking, on average, most people don't look as good as they did in their 20s. However, if we have a woman who was hot in her 20s, most likely as she gets older, she's still going to be considered as hot. Some actually even look better. Some of them, their features get sharper. Some of them lose body fat, so on and so forth. Now, that older woman is still going to look better than an ugly younger woman.
Some women get hotter when they approach.
woman.
Some women get hotter when they hit
Pardon?
the wall. It's like, oh no, it's coming up. I'm losing my attractiveness, and then they really get into the gym, get into diet.
So just to use Pearly Things as an example, if you put her right here, Pearly Things, who's fertile in her 20s, and you put her next to, I don't know, Selma Hayek, who's like 50 something. Let's just call it what it is. You know what I mean? Yeah, one can give you a kid, but one is still exponentially hotter than the other. So, you have to really look at the nuance of the situation. But I understand the point that he was making. But, you know what I mean? She obviously did that for mostly clicks.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Like if a woman in her 20s is smoking hot and she basically at 45, 50, 60 years old doesn't put on a lot of, it's almost the same exact shape, that hotness is still going to be there. That she started off with more. so the little percentage of what she may have lost is still going to be way better than someone who started out with less. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Selma Hayek is a perfect example.
That is exact, dude. I totally agree with both of you guys. That's what's being missed is like you're starting off with more, and that's the difference.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, good luck, Pearly Things. Maybe she'll find a husband. Anyway.
Hey, I like Pearl. I'm going to put that out there. I do like her. She's
Listen, I know anyone with a podcast is like kissing the ring or willing to kiss the ring. I think she's a I guess a nice girl. She's playing the game everybody else plays. So I'm not going to tear her down any more than all the men are doing it. All the men are pandering. All the men are talking shit on these machines. So I'm not going to, pull her out. She's doing what the guys are doing. She just did it better because she blew past everybody. So we don't have to bash her or talk bad about her. I can't knock a hustle one from New York. But is she extraordinarily intelligent, extraordinarily attractive, extraordinarily even interesting? No. It's just that there are masses of men who want to hear women ain't shit. That's the recipe. That right there is the jewel. It has nothing to do with her. I say here all the time, if I grifted tomorrow with these looks and I said women ain't shit and men deserve better, there shouldn't be child support or alimony, they'd all be at my feet. All of them. Okay. But I choose not to do that because I just like being who I am and I don't want to pander or grift. I'm not good at it. I'm just not good at it. Like if I don't like somebody, I'm like, fuck off. I can't pander or grift if I don't like you. I mean, so, I get what she's doing. She's a young girl. She's doing the hustle. I think it happened quickly. So she's overwhelmed. And that's why she gets caught up in saying stupid things like slavery's not that bad. And she's going to make a lot more mistakes because this isn't really her. She's a grifter. She's very young. She's not attractive. So the getting is good right now, but I would say, has to be very careful at her age and with her looks because she may end up, with nobody or someone trying to use her for the clout because she does have 1 million subs and that's currency on social media. But I wouldn't, I can't say whether or not she's a good girl. I don't fucking know this lady. From a can of paint. I don't know what her intentions are, but I'm not knocking a hustle. Salute to anybody who's hustling. Thank you for the super chat, Fahim Jackson. Fahim Jackson says, I think dating older too depends on where you live. Living in Miami, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles give women incentive to look better than when I go back home to visit Wisconsin.
Very true. I have a girlfriend who lives in Atlanta and she's from the Midwest. And she says every time she goes back home, she's like, what the hell is going on here? And it makes her like, she literally, because she's 56 and she is gorgeous. And she says she goes running out of there. She's like, I don't even want it to jump on me. She's like, get me out of here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Few years ago, I made a trip to Milan, Italy, and that was what struck me is that we're talking nonna here. We're talking 70 and 80-year-old women who are putting it together.
I was just in Italy.
I wear looks,
they are hot.
Makeup on point. It is astonishing. It's wonderful. You know what I mean? But we have given the youth of social media the keys to the castle. They think of aging as 25.
That's crazy. That's scary.
Our entire media is set up to worship nothing but youth. You hear about the 12-year-old brain surgeon. Do you want a 12-year-old operating on your brain?
No.
Give me the 70-year-old, the guy who's been doing it for decades and all that shit. But,
we
just don't honor age or anything that comes with it. Was that
the old jaded son of a bitch who's been doing it for decades? Yeah,
I'll fix that fucking brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
While he's eating the sandwich.
The one that can do it with a spoon.
Exactly.
Yeah, I sent the pictures of Jen of a woman in Spain, and she might have been in her 70s, but she was dressed really nicely. And you're right about that, David. I almost fell in love in France when I saw a young French lady. She might have been part of a bridal shower. I'm not sure. Ride past me in high heels on a scooter, one of the ones that you do with your feet. Now, she did fall and bust her ass. I thought that was kind of funny, too.
Humbling.
Did you help?
Everybody was shocked. We're like, oh.
Did you help? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're too hot to get hurt.
But she got up laughing. I'm sure she was embarrassed. But it was like, holy gosh, she was riding a little scooter in high heels. It was crazy.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. And also, from front row seats, I got signed as a model at 50. I'm 57 now. But the ageism in fashion is absurd. Just walk down the street, just walk down your nearest street with a lot of stores on it and see how many people of age are depicted in any ad, anywhere, in any store window. go into those stores if you do shop in stores, or go online and look at the sites. Are you represented as a person of age? You're not. There are very few brands that do it. And the ones that do, like Calvin Klein, sure, as long as you're already famous, you can be in their underwear. But if you're not, you got to be 17.
I
Even
just-
though,
I wanted to
Go
bring
ahead,
this up
Jen.
to Jen.
I was the only model of age in one of the shows at New York Fashion Week Men's Day last season. And after the show, I was looking at the press coverage and everything like that. I looked at Women's Wear Daily. I looked at Hype Beast. I looked at a couple other ones for the show that I was in. And in all of these all these publications, I was the first shot. I was like, yes, good. Maybe we're making progress here. This is awesome. New York Fashion Week, who received the same package, published the same deck, but switched me as the cover image for a younger male model. So you see, it's at the head, it's at the top.
Right.
It's just everywhere.
Yeah, America hates aging.
Well, that's one thing. I alluded to it earlier in a previous comment. I wanted to bring the concept back up. And I've noticed in my experiences, again, with the Cougars, something that my age and below lacks, and I'm in my mid-30s, is class. And I was raised primarily by my grandparents. So I'm a younger man, but I have like an 80-year-old man's brain. And class was huge for me. And that's one of my major attraction triggers as a guy. And I noticed that a lot of girls, again, my age and younger, they simply don't have it. Whereas the older women, they do. Maybe they didn't always have it, but they've developed it with age. And I've noticed that myself too. I'm a little classier at 36 than I was at 26. And I presume that will continue, hopefully.
Yes. And women, even as a woman, I'm scrolling and Facebook pulled me over today because I said women are fucking insane. I'm scrolling. I mean, there are women in the pressurized girdles after the BBLs. They're selling this. I saw a young woman today. I'm like, dude, you're in your 20s and you're already treating yourself and your body as you're a geriatric woman who has to hold all the parts together in your 20s. She's like, oh, I don't even have to wear this anymore. I had my BBL a year and a half ago, but I wear it because I like it. So she has the girdle on, and then the pounds of makeup and the Botox at such a young age. These girls are in their 20s getting injected. And I'm like, where are you heading? They're getting their ribs removed and their boobs expanded and their butts. It's a lot going on. And I get exhausted just looking at it. I couldn't imagine being 20 something years old. And then every ad you see, but now they're including men. They're slowly seeping into men. But every ad you see is prevent a wrinkle, prevent a sag, and it's a constant bombardment. And you don't see those ads for men. You just don't. But now it's changing, but I don't think it'll ever be. I mean, it's probably going to change for men who are more vain than the average guy.
And men are more vain than ever because of these devices that
oh my God, I'm seeing like guys that I grew up with, like regular guys, using filters.
Yes.
Like,
that drives me nuts.
These are blue collar guys. These aren't even like metrosexuals. These are my regular cops. And I'm like, what are you doing using a filter? Like, they're putting fake bodies with AI, artificial intelligence.
God.
Like, what the fuck what's happening to the men? And the women already knew we're nuts. Women are already nuts. But now it's like seeping into the guys, and the guys are getting the daddy do-overs, and they're making their dicks bigger, and liposuction with the. I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm just speechless.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission to, make anti-aging a banned phrase because it's just so stupid. It is the most futile pursuit anyone can ever endeavor in, and everyone endeavors in it,
I always say my goal is to age with grace. I am going to age. I'm not going to stop it.
That is mine too. Age with style and grace, and youthful vigor, and boom.
So good. what I always have, doing when I teach makeup and skincare and all of that stuff, I always start off with two things. I'm like, listen, we're all going to age, right? But none of us are in a rush to do it, right? So it's like you want to do it gracefully, but you don't want to rush the process. And what I'm seeing when people start these Botox and fillers and BBL so early, they look old. Like it really ages them. I look at Kylie Jenner and
Oh
she had
my
just turned
God.
18 looking 40. I look at Lotto. She was like a 40-year-old woman that looks good for her age, right? So you know, and so the other thing I tell people, do you want to know the biggest secret of not aging? It's a couple of them. Water and eliminating as much stress as possible, and just finding a way to be happy, right? Just
Right.
freaking finding a way to be happy. Those three things right there, because that's what when I look at people that I consider that are people. There's another one, David.
What's the fourth?
Alcohol.
What?
Yep. Cut it out. Yeah.
Stop
Alcohol
drinking
ages.
alcohol.
Oh
Period.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm of the believer that my hatred for everyone keeps me young. You know, it's a very unbiased,
You eat souls?
very
Are you eating
He
souls?
has
unbiased,
the misanthropy cocktail every night.
exactly.
It's
It's a
working.
very unbiased hatred,
I have the misanthropy protein shake all the
and
time.
it keeps
But
it
let,
keeps
but
my
let me
blood
say something.
pumping.
I love that anti-aging thing. Listen, I will support that mission, David, with you 110% because you know, my Lily, when you said none of us are in a rush to age, you know what? I don't want to age. This is the only reason. Because the older I get, the closer to death I get, and I feel like I'm gonna miss my children, my child and my grand, and I want as much
That's
time with
understandable.
them as possible. But I'm never thinking, oh my God, there's gonna be a wrinkle there. Because let me tell you, there's nothing more beautiful than someone aging gracefully if they're healthy.
Yes,
Because
Yeah.
let me
yes.
tell you, at 40, at 40, I can get a guy. At 50, I can get a guy. At 60, I can get a guy. At 70, I can get a guy. I'm gonna be a little petite thing, okay, forever, a little six pack. You know what I'm saying? I'm always, even if I get wrinkly, I'm always gonna be a gorgeous woman. I'm always gonna have great conversation. I'm always gonna have a great sense of humor. So I don't mind the aging thing. I'm just like, oh my God, we're closer to death. I want to see my babies, you know what I mean, graduate and get married. And that's when I think about age, I think about it in that aspect. I don't dwell, though. I don't dwell. But you're absolutely right. Like no liquor. Try not to let people stress you. Also, a couple of people getting on my nerves lately. Them people that always have negative stories for you. And people they
Oh
watch
yeah.
TV or
Yeah.
read articles, and then they bring everything to. Oh, you know that this. I heard water is bad for you. Did you hear on the news? You know this will cause it. I hate people who are constantly bombarding me with
Mhm.
bad negativity. But I don't have that in my cipher. I don't want that in my world. I try not to give that to my friends and family. Like don't give it to me. I'm big on energy and it's in your pores and the furniture and in your clothes. Like get the hell away from me. I don't like those people in my life. Don't
Also,
call me.
as you age, you should grow that circle, right? And make sure that it is multi-generational. Don't just hang out with
Mhm.
your friends from high school. You know what I mean? If you talk to people who live long lives, it's because they have that infusion of, you know, maybe youthful perspectives that help them to understand what the
Yes.
younger generations are thinking, and we can board them with our history that they think is inconvenient and embarrassing and irrelevant or whatever.
The
Oh, am I
mind
being
is
bitter?
the mind is the mind is an extremely powerful,
Yes, it is.
useful tool. Extremely, people underestimate whatever you say
Mm.
out your mouth. Your brain believe like you wake up with a blank brain every morning. Your brain is like, okay, what are we going to do today? And if
Coffee.
you're like, we're going to worry about being old. We're going to worry about aging. We're going to worry about that ex. We're going to worry about this. Your brain's like, okay, that's what the fuck we're going to do then. You know what I mean? It's like you have to put in your brain what you want it to do on a daily. It's a daily, it's an exercise, right? Just like going to the gym.
I
But
think for
get negative people the hell away from you. I say that passionately. Get them away
I
Yeah.
from you.
believe in all
Smile
those.
lines don't look bad anyways. I mean,
No, they
we've all
don't.
ran
Listen,
across
I
an
got
old person where they have the ones here. Like you can tell they've lived a
Mhm.
good life. It doesn't look
I
Mhm.
bad.
smile a lot. That's why I got
Me
smile
too.
lines.
Yeah,
I
I'm
will
back
say
with you.
this though. I will
Ding,
say
ding,
this
ding.
though. For men, I think for men, we could be 90 years old, and just as long as our dick works, we're pretty good. We're like that's 90% of it. The other
Men do
10%
kind of
is like,
win
oh
in
yeah,
the
the kids
aging
are doing
lottery.
great, the wife is good, or whatever. You know, you got a dog or whatever it is. As long as you know what I mean, or what's going on down there is functional. you know what I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's a happy life.
I have to say,
But
so I'm the youngest one here. I think I said it before. I'm 29, so I'm a young buck, and
baby
I have
face.
to
My
say,
God, my
I have
daughter's older than you. Jeez.
oh
Jesus,
yikes!
bud.
But I have to say, what we're kind of talking about when it comes to having that multi-generational like family or not family relationships with people is
Mhm.
so freaking important. It wasn't until in 2020 when all the lockdowns happened and I started branching out and trying to do self-improvement. There's so much you can learn from a bunch of different people that are either older or younger than you that you would have no idea about, because we're like kind of trained, like back when I think about school, you're kind of trained to like stay at your grade level, not to go above
Yeah.
or below.
Right.
And when you break that mindset and you actually start interacting and bridging that gap, it is absolutely amazing. You learn so much stuff you would never even think about.
Mm.
That's so true. I've never actually bought into that. My friends have always been older or younger. And the thing is, because I always want to have examples of what to do and what not to do. So I can, possibly avoid certain things. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that didn't work out for all those people, so I may not try that. But I noticed that this group of people age really gracefully, and they have certain things in common. So let me employ those things into my life today, right? And then the youth, they just keep me my ear to the streets. They keep me youthful, the
Mm.
energy, the vibrance, because I have a very youthful energy, but a very mature mind, right? So I'm kind of like a 16-year-old and a 16-year-old, right? But and then like I always mention my grandmother who's 86 at the time. She's 86 right now. Gorgeous, fabulous, still lives her best life. But the thing is, she worked with young people for 60 years and she didn't retire till she was 81. And she didn't even want to retire, right? But it was just like, politics or whatever, ageism. Um, that made her retire, but she loved working with those kids. And it was so funny because after she retired, she was like, so what am I expected to do? Hang out with a bunch of old motherfuckers? Because she literally doesn't even know how to talk to people her age. She doesn't. Like, you can call her and talk about pop culture, fashion, she even makes me stuff. And I'm like, see, that's what I'm trying to give.
So before we move on, David, I think with the whole anti-aging thing, then you have to, in my opinion, you have to let go of men won the aging lottery, right? Because how do they win the lottery? Their dicks go bad, they get just as wrinkled. Okay. But I think that hearing constantly, well, you men look better as they age, says who fucking who? Someone said that and then it stuck. Why don't they say that about women? Women look better as they age. What's the difference? Why do men look better as they age? They get just as wrinkled, they get just as gray, their dicks go limp, right? They
It's
have
the
the same
individual.
issues. They have the same issues as women have as they age. But when we say that, then we make aging good for one gender and not the other.
I mean, you're right, and it was a dumb thing for me to say, but it is picking up on that tradition where they say that men, become more distinguished, or some men become more.
Some.
Donald Trump.
Some.
Look at Donald Trump. Some men become more extinguished when they distinguished before they're
Freudian
extinguished.
slip.
They are distinguished. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. We need to flip that paradigm, and then we even need to bust it out of gender altogether, because
I
Well, I
love
think that
that.
both sides of the fence weaponizes their mortality against each other, men and women, both
Like
genders.
what? Like how?
Well, just like what you said, like people will, you're gonna grow old and die, and then women
Oh,
say that, well, we have stats that prove that you get old and die alone, and everyone is so worried about saying someone growing old and dying alone, and no one wiping their asses. When in reality, we all are going to grow old and die alone, most likely. Very few of us are going to die quietly amongst our loved ones. We're
And
most likely going to
and
go
real
down.
and really for men and women, anyone can date at any age and get anybody. That hit the wall, you're gonna die alone with cats, is a fucking myth, long as you're a pleasant person.
right.
If you are a pleasant person, just be a pleasant person. 50, 60, 70. If you're a pleasant person, people are going to want to be around you and some are going to even want to fuck you. Just be a pleasant person.
And here we have a generation that doesn't understand hospitality. Hospitality gets you laid, people.
And I was just about to add to that, and I've said my grandma found the love of her life at 81, 82.
Yeah, so, she did.
Yeah. The man gave her a damn house and remodeled it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Talk about the wall, huh?
Yeah.
One thing I don't do, I don't regret anything as I get older.
I regret nothing.
No. I have zero.
Yeah, that'll get you. So, guys, let's get into the topic. All right. This was dropped on my desk as No Saint ran by. And I like it. I liked it because I could relate. And I was like, wow, an article about my feelings. This is cool. So tonight's main topic, and I'm glad we have so many different opinions here tonight for it. Do people with lower expectations opt for marriage? Do people with lower expectations opt for marriage? This is the picture I wanted to go with because this is how I picture most married people. They're very settled in. They're not very adventurous. These guys aren't going to run up and, hey, let's go fuck on a car in the rain. That's just not generally what happens in a marriage. When you're married, you get very comfy. You have your forever person, the person that you can count on, right? The person that's going to be there to wipe your ass, right? Because that's really big with marriage. Who's going to be there to wipe your ass, right? So you got your ass wiper, you got your confidant, you got your best friend, even though your best friend knows more about your spouse than you know what I mean, your actual spouse. You married the best friend, you know, what have you, and those things go along, right? In this article, it says the desire to have a romantic partner is associated with lower satisfaction. That's pretty fucking deep, I think.
Say that one more time.
Let me get back to the page, David. No.
Yeah, because I needed it too. I'm glad. No, I'm glad you asked. I needed it too.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. Let me come on, don't fuck with me now.
It's being a communist for no reason.
I'll wait for you.
Do you remember what it was?
I got it. The desire to have a romantic partner is associated with lower life satisfaction. It's associated with lower life satisfaction, but more so in older adults. Mm-hmm. It says here, a study of individuals between 18 and 75 years of age who do not have a romantic partner found, this is from 18 to 75, found that those having a greater desire for a partner tended to have a lower quality of life. You dig that?
100%.
And the reason why it jumped out at me is because I talk about that often on the block, where I'm like, I'm extremely happy. I'm enjoying my daughter and my grandchildren. I'm enjoying my friends. I'm enjoying creating with my friends. I'm enjoying hanging out, talking to them, you know what I mean? Whenever. And that to me is more fulfilling, right? I feel like I'm living a full life, where in the past, I can confess, and I will admit, when I've been lower quality of life, I looked for a man to supplement that, right? And then I got into these relationships and I'm like, oh, I'm comfortable now. I got my person and somebody will wipe my ass when I'm 80. Yay, right? Then my girlfriends knew more about him than he knew that I felt about him, because we tell our girlfriends everything, right? We say we marry our best friend. It's bullshit. Our best friends are our best friends and they know more. Lily knows more about a couple guys I've been looking at than they know, all right, about how I feel about them. That's just life. But I have to agree, like, when I've lived a lower quality of life, I was more susceptible or more inclined, or I veered more into, let me find a partner that'll make me happy. So I completely agree. And I'll pause there because there's more in the article I want to dissect. But what say you guys automatically hearing this? And I know, Huds, you're married, right?
No, I am not. Well, sort of.
Okay.
But we're not doing a state marriage, but that's an entirely separate story. But yeah, I think that from the entire thing, like reading this article, like when you had shared it with me and then hearing it back again, I think the biggest issue is that people don't spend the time understanding their and appreciating their own sense of self. So they want somebody else to go ahead and fill a gap that they have not done. They have not gone on their own journey. So I think that's exactly what it's saying right there. And that is just, it's brilliant. This is such a great topic. I just wanted to say that.
I've seen this a lot. Like I said, I got people of different ages in my life, right? And what I notice is, okay, so we all have a priority list, right? Whether we are aware of it or not, we all have one. And there's certain things that are maybe on like mostly all of ours, like money, love, things like that, right? Um, and so what I notice is for those who put I gotta have a mate at the top, I do notice that they have a lower quality of life because it what it comes off to me as it's like they're reserving their happiness for that thing, right?
Mm,
And
mm.
I remember when I was that person, right? And my mentor at the time said to me, "What if it never happens? Then what?" That shit hit me like a ton of bricks because then that's when I ended up with HUD's thing. I realized, oh, like what I need to do is work on me just in case it never happens. I need to find my own happiness and let a relationship be the icing on the cake. Right. And I realized that's what I wanted in a partner too. Right. Like I need to be the icing on your cake, you know,
Mhm.
um, because what happens is like it just gets real like because I've seen it so many times. I got a few friends that are going through divorces at a higher age
Mhm.
and they're those people and it just feels like they feel like their world is just ended and things like that. I'm like, no, an experience ended, you know. So I guess so it gives you a different perspective depending on where that falls on your priority list.
I always tell my guys to become best friends with yourself first. And a lot of times with failed relationships or this desire to get into the relationship, I always ask them, okay, do you really desire the person or are you more in love with the fantasy you've created of who this person could potentially be? And if it's the latter, then you're going to be sorely disappointed in how that relationship ultimately ends.
Mm.
I
I,
think those kinds of people are necessary because they fill the population with people. Yeah, I mean,
Facts.
come on, they have low expectations. They have low ideas. They don't have too many options. You know what I mean? For most people, the biggest accomplishment for most people will just be having kids. That's just pretty much it. And you worked at a
Yep.
job and you did it for a while and then you died. You know what I mean? They don't have the guts to follow a career or tackle their fears or so on and so forth. Driven people absolutely suck at relationships and they might be fairly decent parents. Because look, listen, in order to be in a relationship, this is the truth, in order to really be in a functional relationship, the shit you see on TV and be a functional mom or a functional dad, you can't have shit going on really. You gotta constantly live for that other person, that other human being. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So when you're driven and you
Yep.
gotta get this bag, you gotta get this, you gotta get this, that, you're putting so much passion and energy into being the best at what you do over here. Yeah, that kid gets neglected. Yeah, that girl gets neglected. That guy gets neglected. So there's only a few people in the world who are driven because only those few people are the ones who push humanity forward. So it all works in tandem. There's only a few of us who push humanity forward, and there's a whole all everybody else just makes more human beings.
that's interesting. But
Very.
that's a good take there. Yeah, I love the article.
What attracted you to the article? No, Saint, you are a married man.
Yeah, no, I saw it. I was checking out articles and I saw that and I said, oh, that sounds interesting. Let me read it. Um, you know, the the reason I thought because one thing is those relationships for those people who are looking for someone else and they have a low satisfaction in their life are doomed to fail. Those relationships are going to fail. I've always wanted a woman to be interested in me, but not on where I'm at the top of her list of things, because the pressure you put on that partner to make them happy, I don't want it. I don't want that pressure of being the number one thing going on in someone's life, because it's really hard to meet someone else's expectations, right?
But
So I want
no
someone, but
thing.
wait, I just want to say, I want someone who is happy with themselves,
Mhm.
like that article says. That's the person I want. Someone who's already, because that's the, there's days I don't feel great about myself, but a lot of times I'm cool the way I am, and I don't need anybody to make me happy, because the second you need someone to make you happy, that's bad news.
I just wanted to jump in and say really quickly that the problem with that is that we are even raised to think that when we couple up, we're doing it for the other person. It's a hard thing to shake. It sounds great. Like, hey, I want us to come into this and be individuals, and you have your life and I have my life. No, those two people get joined at the hip. Happy wife, happy life, right? It's all about the other person. And you're making me feel bad. And you're hurting my feelings. And who's that guy over there that you were talking to? Who's that girl? It becomes like the relationship becomes symbiotic. It just does. It sounds great that you're going to go into it, but even vows, even marriage vows is I will live and die for you.
Right.
I will live and die for you. I am nothing without you. I am nothing without you. You know what I mean? And that's what happens with relationships. I do want to read one more sentence here. It says studies have shown that single individuals who report a stronger desire for having a romantic partner tend to also report being less satisfied with their life. So are even young people, this study is from 18 to 75, even young people, are they trying to put the Band-Aid of vacancies in their life with another person? And like No Saint said, that is doomed to fail.
By the way, thank you to the Queen. That's a sweet comment.
Yeah, a lot of people don't have a lot going on these days,
Right.
and this is one of the only cases where two halves don't make a whole. I know when it comes to the dating thing, again, I'm my own best friend, but I also have best friends, and I'm really close with my family. I just got done traveling all over the Mediterranean with my brother. Fantastic time. We weren't even worried about girls or relationships or anything. But if he had a solid girl who could match his energy and match his interest in life, and I did too, then I'd assume it would only amplify the fun. But there definitely wasn't a lack there. So I think people need to remember, this is the saying they used to say to me when I was in college down here in Mexico years ago, is that two halves don't make a whole. Now, two whole people, that's what you're looking for. It's like, all right, cool. I'm on my journey. I'm having a good time with or without you, but you're on a similar journey and we're kind of into the same stuff. Then yeah, let's go ahead and merge forces and see what doesn't happen.
I did a video about that. I said, I'm not looking for another half. I'm looking for a whole, because I done worked on myself and made myself whole. The fuck I'm looking for another half for? The math ain't mathing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a like to what Haran brought up. I've got I guess maybe not like a contrary view, but just something to think about. And let's just say that the numbers switched, like to what Haran was talking about, where the majority flipped to, and I see it shifting, right? It's not the majority, but it's shifting, where it's like the living your best life mentality, focusing on the self mentality, don't need anyone else to make myself happy mentality, which is resulting, which I think will, result in fewer and fewer marriages, fewer and fewer relationships, fewer and fewer families being built, fewer and fewer children being born. And then you end up with a society full of aging people who only consume. And this is what's happening in Japan. They're flipping the fuck out in Japan because their aging population is outgrowing their baby population. And then old people don't produce. They just consume and consume and consume, and then they die. And then so you need young people to be produced in order to maintain society, right? That's how societies were grown, was by people creating families and creating structures and growing in resources and that whole thing. And so I wonder, like, what would happen? Would we just have social collapse if the majority switched to or grew to just being more self-fulfilling? And it feels good and makes a lot of sense in a short term. But like, we go back to our grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great-grandparents. The mentality wasn't what's in it for me now. It's what's in it for my children, my grandchildren, my legacy extending beyond just the children you create, but with the mindset that this is going to go on for generations, right? And we don't have that mentality anymore.
Well, you know
Don't
what,
you think
Justin?
that? Go ahead, Lily.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, what we have a problem with a lot of times is balance, right? We go from one end of an extreme to another end of an extreme. We don't even make a pit stop in the middle, right? What I think needs to happen, and I feel like it's also happening, but you are definitely kind of like right about what's going on in Japan and across the world, actually. That is what's happening. Birth rates are lower around the board. Marriages, the young people do not want to get married. They're not interested in children. What I'm seeing, and this is just my hypothesis, I just feel like family, marriage, and the way we raise children needs to be reimagined, right? That one cookie cutter way of doing it, I think there's more options that could be explored. For instance, an example is I don't have a problem with like when I see like the sister wives type situations and stuff like that, if it works for that group of people, which there's groups of people that it does work for. Or you see this in a lot of queer relationships where two best friends that get together and have a child and raise the child together, and that child is getting love and family and all of those things. I just feel like there's more than one way to look at it instead of just scrapping it all together, right? Because we do need children to be born or the society just stops. It's kind of like how during the pandemic, I love the tourists not being here. It was the best time of my fucking life in New York, right? But we needed the tourists to come back for New York to be able to continue to move. So.
Times Square was wild going down there in the middle of the day, and it was like me and like a couple of like Asian like girls taking pictures, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
But don't you think?
Wild.
Don't you think? And I get the concern, but don't you think that's paranoia?
Well, it wasn't a concern. It was just something to think about.
No, I mean some people
It's a concern
are
for
concerned.
Japan. Hell yeah, like it's,
right? But
it's showing
some
in their
people
numbers.
some people are concerned about that. But I look at it different. I look at it as there are already too many motherfuckers here. A drought would be nice.
Well,
They can't. They're the homeless people. Absolutely deplorable, the amount of homeless people. Children who are not being taken care of, the amount, absolutely deplorable. Children in the system, absolutely deplorable. Children that are born out of wedlock and the father doesn't want to take care of them, or the mother abandons them, absolutely deplorable. And you want to just keep having kids and throwing kids on top of that? There's an abundance of food. It doesn't get to the right places because there's too many people. There are too many needs.
Your point, Jen, earlier.
So I'm like, we need a fucking drought. Like, stop having kids for a couple years.
Right, like to a point that you made, like I think in an earlier show, about just humans are not this special thing. We're just another species on this planet, and species run their course, right? Like at one point, now granted, it was like there were all kinds of animals on this planet that were here and that became extinct due to natural or unnatural means, and this could just be one of our ends. I
thought about that a lot. Justin. I thought about that a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But to Justin's point, and he brings up Japan, and Lila, you said it's happened a lot of places, and it is. Just think about this: Shanghai's birth rate is 0.7 per person, and they're already past their prime. That society is going. That system is going to collapse. Whether it's 10 years or 15 years, there's no turning back. They're already on a population crash. The advantage we have in the United States is we bring in people.
Yep.
And people want to come here, and people still want to come here.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of countries that aren't like that. But I get what you're saying, Jen. But what Justin's saying is absolutely correct. You can't just stop having kids and expect that, within a few generations that there's going to be, I don't know,
you don't
it's going to be worse for your grandchildren.
You don't think we have an abundance of children here already?
Well, the issue is the
I mean, people just keep
else.
breeding and breed. Like everywhere I look, there's a pregnant woman. She has one on her hip, you know what I mean? It's like they're fucking kids everywhere. They're falling out of the ceiling.
It looks that way, but the thing is, and we see this, and it's not just capitalism, as
Tristan.
I want to say Justin. Tristan is saying it's not just capitalism, because this is happening over in China. It's when you get a society that has more means and get off the farm, kids are more of a burden than they are a hand. So people have less of them. And then if you stop having kids, then the people that get older no longer have that. So like for us, it'll be Social Security. You know, you no longer have people putting in to uphold the things that when you stop working and being productive. Now, I think Haran would say, let them die.
But isn't there a point? I know you said it's not just capitalism, but isn't this a great point? People don't want to struggle with children. Shit is too expensive. You could barely have a spouse. Mm-hmm. You could barely, I mean, we see the wars online all the time. You got to pay 50-50. What you bringing to the table? It takes 2 incomes. You could barely have a spouse. You're gonna add nigglins to that.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, I have to say, playing off this whole hypothetical situation, we could just put iPads in the hands of our children at a younger age, teach them AI, and then all of a sudden they can go ahead and provide for us in the same way that they would have on the farm.
But
that's what they're doing now. They're already doing that. So
I was going to mention that too. A lot of people don't like their kids. I've dated a lot of girls that have been single moms, or even their own moms say towards them, or hell, even people in my family have been like, yeah, did the best we could, but having kids is kind of a burden. And I've noticed again, more in my age range and the younger ones, people that do have kids, they almost view them like fashion accessories. They don't actually raise them.
Right.
They're like, like I get attention via my kid. It's not about the kid.
So let me tell you, I was trying to figure out how to tell this story without, but I've been having that same conversation for the last couple of days. I've been noticing something with the younger generation. What you just said is what I was noticing. So I brought it to a couple of other people, and they was like, "Oh, it's a real thing." And I was around a bunch of people, right? And this weekend, what I noticed was all of the men had their children, whether they had 1 or whether they had 5 or in between. The women were nowhere to be found all weekend. But if you go to Facebook, it's like this accessory thing. They're like the best mom. They're baking cookies. They're doing Easter egg hunts and stuff like that. And it's like, you're right. A lot of people don't want that. They like the idea of it. They like the idea of marriage. They like the idea of children. It sounds really great. They get a lot of attention from it. But then the other parts in between is like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like change diapers and shit. PTA meetings. Like, what are you talking about?
I'm glad that you said that. Because the thing is that the younger generation is admitting what our parents felt. You think our parents wanted us running around, spending up their money, eating their food, fucking with their TV? It's just the younger generation is admitting it because everybody's bolder now and you can't shame them. And everybody has postpartum depression. And everybody, I want to talk about my feelings, right? I don't like my kids, right? And that's going on now. But kids are a burden. They are a fucking burden. 9 times out of 10, you have kids with some bitch you don't like, or you guys fell out, right? And I'm talking about, this is not gender specific. This is men and women, right? And if a lot of people can do it over again, they would not fucking do it. The idea of having children is a wonderful thing. And then they're here. And you're like, holy fuck, I got to keep this thing alive. I got to feed it. I got to send it to college. I got to make sure it's up to date with all the clothes and all the accessories and all the technology. It's a fucking burden. You lose your life. You lose your life. And yes, people say, oh, I wouldn't change a thing now that they're here. You have to say that. You have to say it. But younger people are like, fuck that. I didn't want to be a parent, or this is not what I thought it was going to be. It's not cool. And more people are opting out. They are opting out.
Well, I have a question.
I look at it from a perspective of, I don't necessarily have to like my family. I just have a duty to them. Yeah,
I have a question going back to the capitalism comment. things are more expensive these days. So the average price of raising a kid, like I know younger kids, they need computers for the school, and they have the iPhones and the newest shoes, and you mentioned the latest fashions. When I was a kid, we went to like Payless Dress for Less or thrift stores, and everyone did that.
Same.
It wasn't until I was in high school and kids started wearing like Abercrombie and stuff like that. And I thought that was the weirdest thing, at least where I grew up. I grew up out in the country, so maybe my experience is different than others here. But looking back at like any of our photos when we were kids, like our parents dressed us like
Oh
shit.
my God, it was terrible.
And we didn't have iPhones. So
I had 2 older brothers, so everything I had was a hand-me-down. I didn't get clothes like for me that was just mine until I was in high school.
I mean, let's talk. We Jen, Haran, David, Justin, No Saint. Did you even have a phone in your bedroom?
No.
No.
For a while.
No. Like our phones had cords.
Right.
Yeah, we had
I could bring the cordless phone there.
Hold on.
Exactly.
Hold on. No.
Siblings would get
Stretched
on
out
it.
like crazy.
You're telling me that phones used to have cords?
My friend.
Shut up, hon. Shut up.
With a rotary dial.
And my TV was.
It's just not. Before we start talking about back in my day, everybody slow down.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back to the show. You're depressing me. I'm like Star right now. Don't talk to me about the past. Going back to this, having this children thing, you know what I mean, and people opting out of marriage and relationships. It's just, I don't know. I live, I guess, sometimes vicariously through these young people who give zero fucks. They're like, I'm not going to do it. And a lot of us, I think, did it because we got caught up in tradition. Like we were told we were supposed to get older, go to school, get a good job, find a good husband or a good wife, have some children and raise those children, right? And go on and on and on like our parents did and our grandparents did. But I notice every generation is getting more and more reluctant with the traditions, be they holidays, and people are, things are getting worse. No, people are waking the fuck up and they're realizing that they can have their own traditions and their own lives. And that doesn't always include wedding rings and vows and children and, you know what I mean, Christmas and things like that. So I love watching the freedom. I'm going to raise my grandchildren the same way. I'm like, you don't have to do shit you don't want to fucking do.
Well, Jen, on that thing where you shit, what did you just say? But it was something about the, just being able to think differently. Okay, so think about it. Like we go back, say, 50 years, right? And you got your messages from your family. Maybe you got some of your messages from your friends, but those messages were very similar to yours, right? And so you just learned like, okay, this is just what you do. Okay. Right. And it was never questioned because there was no room to question it. Okay. So and they just do it because that's just how things are done. And I remember I was being told the story. It was actually my ex-father-in-law, and he was making hams, and he was always cutting the ends off of his hams right before putting them in the oven. And he was recalling the story about how he was doing this because his mother did it. And then one day when he was, fully grown, and he asked his mother, I've been watching you cut the ends of hams off forever. Why do you do this? And I've been copying you. And she started laughing. She said, well, because the hams were too big, because she had a very small oven. It was like very, very like old school. It wouldn't fit in the oven. So she'd cut the ends off to make it fit. And he thought it was the bad part, right? So fast forward to now, young people, they're getting information from everywhere. Okay. Now I don't want to turn this into like a manosphere conversation, but the red pill is a great example of that, where guys are sharing their experiences. That's how it all started, really. Before there was even labels such as red pill, it was just like these weird little corners of Reddit, and they're just telling stories and sharing their experiences and saying, hey, this is what happened in my marriage. This is what happened in my relationship, and cross-referencing and building up information, being like, holy shit, we're not alone. These things are happening everywhere. And then it just exploded, right? Once we got into social media and so on. So now there's all this huge influx of information everywhere. And now we can say, well, now I have all this information about all these people, and I have statistics, and I can talk to people across the world and see how happy or unhappy people are, and I can make my own choice. I can say fuck it to the system. And because now we can all see the system, we can see the structure of capitalism, we can see the brainwashing, we can see, the cultural influences and all that stuff. And we can decide, do I want to play along, or do I just want to say, fuck it, and go live in a cave somewhere on the top of a mountain or whatever,
The only thing with I just wanted to say, the only thing with the manosphere is that now, unfortunately, I never really understood the premise of men never had a place to talk. I don't understand that. I mean, there was sports, there was the barbershop, there was the bar, there was so I never really could grasp that. But whatever is here, and men have a safe place now to give their opinions and hear other people's opinions. The problem is, the pendulum swung all the way to the other side, and now it's the wild, wild west, and you're getting so much misinformation, and men are being taught to hate women by other men who hate women, and now it's just a smorgasbord of all kinds of.
That's what happens when you lose tradition.
Toxicity, right? And all kinds of crap.
You open the gates. 100%. There's no filters, so everything comes in.
Well, I think that what happened here is that we have to understand that our species was able to survive because of our ability to work together, our ability to communicate. Different tribes and so on and so forth. We're not necessarily saying that we all liked each other, but we learned to work together and communicate. Now, social media is going to go down as, in my opinion, as the seismic shift that put us on a particular course that we probably won't realize until like maybe 100 or 200 years from now. It started with this thing where you get online and you find all your old friends that you might have lost contact with. And then when you found them, then you all get around in a huddle. Then all of a sudden, all of your old friends started saying things that you didn't realize your old friend actually thought about. And then you started to realize you didn't really know people as much as you really thought. And then you started realizing that, wait, I really don't fucking like you. And then you started stumbling on to other different groups, and everybody's here and here and here, and everybody's hating each other, so on and so forth, or whatever, what have you. And now we're realizing that we're at this space where no one wants to work together. It's fuck you and division and this and that and so on and so forth. So there's going to come a time where we're going to realize that our division and our inability to actually sit down and work together and get down to brass tacks and put aside a lot of the emotions that we have and the trauma that we have, we're going to realize that it's going to be very detrimental to our species. By the time that happens, most of the damage will be done, though.
And the social platforms promote the division because it gets the engagement, which gets the clicks, which gets more exposure. And that's one thing I know a couple of guys brought up now. There's all this stimuli or information coming in, and there are no filters. Whereas back in the past, we had gatekeepers. You only had a few channels on the TV. You only had a handful of book publishers. You had to have academic peer-reviewed journals or articles peer-reviewed to be published in journals. And now it's not about the best information wins. It's the most popular information wins. And it's the divisive information. It's the nonsense. It's the shit talking. It's the red meat. And there's stuff there. I know, Jen, you've probably seen this too. Like there's videos I've done where I put a lot of time and effort and research into it. I'm like, wow, this is really going to help people. It's like a 3-hour long thesis and nobody watches it. But I do a video like some chicks just like to fuck. And then I put like an eggplant with like a Colombian chick pointing at it. That's a breakout video. You're like, okay.
Yep.
Cool. We talk about that all the time. It's like we put all this work and he's like, yeah, let's research and read articles. And it's like blip. As soon as we get the yelling up here, people start pouring into the chat. Yep. Happens all the time.
Every time without fail.
It ties back to your class comment. You know what I mean? Jaron, the it just ties into that, this de-evolution that we're experiencing and everything like that. I think the ultimate filter that no one takes advantage of is disconnecting because it's addictive. And I had another point that will come to me at a later time.
But I look at standards in general have just been erased across the board. And this is the result. We are seeing it real time. And I like, Jen, that you always bring up the fact that we are experiencing this real time. We don't have any real data because we're living it at this moment. We don't know the damage. We have inklings of it. We see 20-year-olds walking around with pumped up bodies, trying to look young. So we see inklings of it, but we don't really know the true damage that this is doing to us.
There was a gentleman who shot his significant other because she liked someone's picture on Instagram recently. This
Nice.
happened like the other
I saw
day.
that.
I've
Yeah, you
heard it
saw that. So
twice
it's
like
like,
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
so
mean-
it goes back to the original question, like people happier without tradition, without structure of Lily, what were you mentioning?
Standards.
Standards,
think
which are
there's
standards are created by tradition, and right? Like, are we really happier?
There's a lack of imagination, because what you were saying, Justin, was that people think they only have certain choices. Let's say if they're in a smaller world, a small town, another time, whatever, and they don't give themselves the permission to think outside the box and say, well, wait a minute, are these traditional relationship structures sensible? But more importantly, are they sensible to me? And can I think of an alternative? And can I find the people that will make that happy? On the other side, when you start creating new traditions, old traditionalists come for you, right? And this is kind of where we are right now. When Lily, you and I know a million people that are engaged in polyamorous relationships and everything like that. They are happy, they're thriving. There are 5 people in a relationship getting along great. More power to them and everything like that.
For most people, I think tradition.
And then you got the other side saying, "My God, you're 5 Satans creating Satan babies."
Listen, I think the reason why traditions. This is what I think about traditions. I think they give people a comfort and predictability and a sense of control of their lives. And when you take that away, people don't like to feel like they don't have control. It's a pattern. When you're a kid and you see things happening in a pattern, you think, okay, because as a kid, you don't know, like, how am I going to make it in this world? Unless you're one of these special kids that just always know what you want to do. So you look see what your parents are doing. You look to see what your neighbors are doing. Okay, this is the line I have to follow to make sure that I'm not a bum on the street with homeless, a homeless guy. And it's comfort, and traditions are comfort. Christmas comes every year. It's
They're
predictability.
Safe. It's safe.
It's safe.
I've never liked
safe.
traditions. I've never liked them.
It's
They're,
safe.
like,
But
they're
to
so
answer-
against who I am.
But to answer Justin's question, are we better without tradition? A lot of us are. Are we happier? A lot of us are. I'm ecstatic without having to, submit to Christmas and Valentine's Day and Mother's Day and let's get a turkey in November. And that to me is a slow fucking death. Like, literally your life, literally your life is mapped out 12 months every single year. It's a flow. It's like it reminds me of the cartoons with the people on the boat and they're just all doing like this at the same fucking time and the boat is just moving, but they never know because they're not outside. They just doing this thing. So I know I'm happier without tradition. I know a lot of people know a lot of people who are happier without tradition. But you're right. The majority of people need that safety. They're like, if you take Christmas, what are we going to do? They can't even fathom having their own traditions. They can't even fathom having their own traditions. And then when they do, there's so much pushback. Like, I'm an atheist. I don't even talk about it with my family. I don't want to hear it. And it's not your business. Right? I don't want to get into that with you. Oh, but you're going to die and be in limbo. You're going to go to hell. I'm like, okay, Ma. All right. I'll say hi to Satan. I don't know what you want me to do.
I think we underestimate the amount of people in the world, in our species, who need to be told what to fucking do.
Hello. Woo!
There's a shitload of us that just need to be told what to do. Like, there's this fucking moron outside right now who's blowing up fucking fireworks on the goddamn street. He's about 2 fucking seconds from catching himself on fire. You know what I mean? Because, he doesn't want to follow.
Do you hate America? I'm trying to understand. Do you hate America?
Sir, you were probably not listening earlier. I have an equal amount of hate towards everyone and everything.
You're an equal opportunity hater.
The 100% without fail solution to the human problem is the erasure of human beings.
Well, this is the thing. Humanity is not sustainable. That's why
I don't disagree.
We're not. It's not sustainable. That's why we're the 5th civilization, and we're on our way up out of here, right? It's very clear. So it's not sustainable. And the thing is, they I feel like a lot of these traditions and stuff are put in place to try to keep us contained as long as possible, but then eventually humanity wakes up and says, this is some bullshit. Now who made this? Now why am I doing this? Like,
And they're adding, Lily, we spoke about it before. They're at literally every week, I'm looking at a commercial or on the calendar or online. It's a new tradition. It's Happy Dog Day, Happy Secretary Day, Happy
that's
Siblings
commercialism,
Day,
yeah.
Happy Sister Day, Happy Brother Day, Happy Drinking Water. Today's Water Day. Today's Mental Health Awareness Month in May. And then that became Mental Health Awareness for Men in June. And then Mental Health Awareness and Domestic Violence Month is in October. And everybody wear purple. Like there's just this bombarding of tradition. And, you know, everybody's like a zombie. Today's Secretary Day. We got to get cards for the secretary. You know what I mean? And it's a slow fucking death. And I'm off that hamster wheel, man. It's fucking crazy. But, you know, again, yeah, human beings need to be told what to do. I jumped off that hamster wheel. It's gross. It's a slow death.
I jumped off
I've
of
got a
about
question.
15 years ago, and it's the best thing that ever happened to me because I literally was just like, what had me doing all of that crazy shit, you know? But then I realized what it was. It was just pressure, and I wanted to be normal, right? I didn't want to answer questions, things like that. So I just went along. But the whole time when I was doing certain things, I knew that just wasn't me. I never understood it. I'm talking about from a child. I didn't understand this shit. So I'm glad people are opting to have different lives that work for them as long as they're not hurting anyone.
I have a question. So we started off talking about standards and then jumped into tradition. So I'm wondering if we're making the assumption that standards and tradition historically were married together, and once we divorced from tradition, now we've lost standards. Because it brings to my mind, when you look at old-timey photos, everybody dressed to the nine, even like the poorest of the poor. Like it was like, obviously a higher class probably had nicer linens, but even the lower class guys, they all wore the top hats and the suits and the little monocle and the watch, and everyone, okay, yeah, they were uniform, they were kind of plain, but part of me kind of misses that too. I mean, I go outside, I'm like, there's some sloppy people out there, and at least put some pride in your appearance, not for yourself, it's for other people. It's to show respect to others. So that's been lost. I think that standard has been lost once we've divorced from tradition. You know, we've already discussed whether the separating from tradition is a good thing or a bad thing, but the standards, how do we get those back? Are standards good, or are we in a better place without having the standards?
We do need to really get back to standards because, look, regardless of what anyone feels about tradition, you need a foundation. You need some sort of foundation. You need core ideas. You need a mission statement, whatever that is. You know what I mean? You can't just be out here just running around, just shooting blindly and so on and so forth. And I think that's one of the problems that a lot of these young people have. They don't have a core base of ideas where they can actually say, this is the line, I'm not crossing it, so on and so forth. It's just a goddamn free-for-all. And that's just not a practical way of living.
So going back to
they're applauded for bucking tradition and, you know, and fucking with institutions, especially, you know, we're always talking about appropriate ways people dress and act and everything like that. And that's the shift. That loud voice, that ass out, that's what gets attention. So yeah, how do we reel that back in? Indeed.
So but basically what you're saying, Haran, is like, okay, yeah, we might, like, for me, I might have removed.
Did you say bonnet?
No, it's the bonnet. The bonnet.
Oh, I thought you said vomit. I was like, you sound like Haran.
Bonnet.
Okay, I might have removed certain traditions from my life, but I was going to I replaced it with something else. You know, because I feel like that's what is going on. It's like they'll take these things out, but then they're just left willy-nilly with nothing tangible or worth anything to replace it with. I think that's what the issue is.
I think that, and no disrespect to the middle children on the panel or in the chat, but we've become a culture and society of middle children. And I will say this by saying that whenever your family has a bunch of fucking kids, whoever's in the middle, what do they usually do? They do the utmost just to do what? Get attention, get attention, pay attention to me, because I'm not the youngest one, which means I'm not going to get away with fucking murder, and I'm not really the oldest, meaning that I'm not the co-parent, and I'm not really your favorite, maybe, and we didn't go through the mud together. So I'm in the middle. So you don't really know what you think about me. You're just like, yeah, we love Josh. So I'm going to do all kinds of crazy fucking shit for you to notice me. So there's so many people on social media. There's so much noise. There's so much whatever. So when you get that clout, you get that moment to be noticed, to be seen. So the moment you get that opportunity to be seen, it just becomes a drug. And that's why people are just behaving, like I said, like it's just a culture of middle children.
So going back to the article, it says in the past several decades, I think we covered this in a way, says in the past several decades, the share of people who are single, i.e. who are not in a romantic relationship, has increased greatly. Individuals who are single can be single because they never married or had a romantic partner, because they are separated, divorced, or because they are widowed. Some of these individuals are single because they do not wish to have a partner, but some of them remain single because they are unable to find a partner.
Wow.
Well, hey, let's be honest here. We don't teach men how to be men anymore, and we don't teach women how to be women anymore. What even is, somebody please, like, I really would love for somebody to tell me this. What is toxic masculinity?
I miss it.
Me too.
I think it's just generally mislabeling of being an asshole. I think just generally, like, when just someone feels another person or a guy being an asshole, it just gets mislabeled as toxic masculinity, and it's a way of siding it with a bit of shame on top of it. But generally, if you look at the behavior that's being done, and as it's being labeled as such, it's just somebody being an asshole.
But isn't that misogyny?
It is. I think it's behavior that's toxic too.
No. Well, there's misogyny, and then there's being an asshole. Like, misogyny is the hatred of women.
Yeah, but gender specific. Toxic masculinity is gender specific. That's why I said misogyny.
Because
I
guys
think
don't really complain about toxic masculinity.
Well, they used to
Say
call it
again?
hypermasculinity. And hypermasculinity was where, say, for example, you grew up in a broken home and then there's no positive male father figure, so you join the local gang, or you get involved with the wrong crowd, or you do things that normally you wouldn't do if you had strong masculine figures or structures in your life. So they used to call it hypermasculinity, where it was that you overcompensated, and that's where you became the asshole, you became the criminal, you did things that you normally wouldn't do. But I think they just replaced hypermasculinity with toxic masculinity now, and they apply that to masculinity in general.
So
I'm about to say masculinity in general now.
Yeah.
So conversely, couldn't you also say that girls that become strippers and didn't have a strong structure or father figure, they were hyper feminine and now they're toxically feminine? Like, if we're going to follow the same logic stream.
No, I don't. No. I think women can be toxic, but I don't think it has anything to do with becoming a stripper. I think women use their I think they what's the word
Like
I'm
a
looking
hardcore
for?
feminist, like a hardcore feminist.
Yeah, they weaponize their femininity against men. And that's the equivalent to toxic, quote unquote. I don't like toxic masculinity, but it's the same thing. I've seen women weaponize their femininity. They use the court system. They use their children. They use their tears, right? I've seen women do that. I've seen them, take advantage, that men are going to automatically be guilty in a situation. And women vindictive. I tell all my male friends, be very careful, because women are fucking vindictive. They can be very, very evil on a level that you will not understand, because men are very simple. I didn't say you guys were dumb, but you guys are simple. And women were constantly watching. That's why I tell guys, if you cheated on your girl, she took you back and forgave you, understand. It's like bringing someone back from the dead in those horror movies where the soul is no longer there, but the person is acting normal. I said, you're bringing back right. It's like Pet Sematary. Her soul is no longer there, and she'll look like your wife, and she'll act like your wife, and she'll talk like your wife. She may even fuck you like your wife. You are no longer in the house with the same person, and it's just a matter of fucking time. Like, women are like that. We are stealth. We are vindictive. Do not play. If you're going to cheat, leave.
I right now in these spaces, particularly I've seen this in the manosphere. The concept of being a gentleman has become synonymous with being weak.
Yeah.
I've seen that. I've seen a number of people, and I'll give an example. You don't necessarily have to eviscerate a woman every 5 minutes. You don't necessarily have to climb on top of a woman and try to destroy her if you get into an argument and so on and so forth. You can excuse yourself from a disagreement. You can behave with a particular degree of class. If you agree with a woman, that's not pandering. The woman might be making a great point and the other guy might sound like an idiot. It is absolutely possible. You don't have to stay on code. Now, I grew up in a time where, some of the men that I knew who were gentlemen, they carried themselves a certain way. They moved a certain way, but trust, believe, they were not weak. They were some of the most violent and stern people you could ever meet in your life. But they knew how to carry themselves with a degree of class, and they know how to they knew when and how to give a woman space.
A lot of it is just dignity.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for all genders, right? And what we're lacking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's why I think that's why I was trying to give like a converse, like even when we were talking about how vindictive women can be. Like I just think about like Cardi B and like what she was gloating about back in the day of like robbing men, and she just will go ahead and throw that out there and she won't get in trouble. And that's just sending a bad message to everybody that you can just kind of do whatever you want as a woman. But if you do anything as a man that's kind of moving in your natural way, that it's toxic. As Jaron said, it went from regular masculinity to now we labeled it hyper, and now we're labeling it toxic. It just doesn't really make sense to me.
And then you tie the hands of many men who are just men. Right. Who are just great men. You tie their hands as well, because if they're disciplining their child or they're treating their wives a certain way, I'm not talking about abusive. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're a toxic masculine. And I'm like, what the f? He just walked in. What the fuck are you talking about? And I'm the type of woman, I will speak up for men. I've done it here a myriad of times. Okay. I speak up for men, and I've spoken up for men on this panel when women were up here acting batshit. Okay. Because it's not cool, right? Especially when a man is being a gentleman. And I always tell the guys on my panel, listen, you're a guy, let her talk shit. So when I see a woman taking advantage of that, I pump the brakes, and I pump them hard, because it's fucked up. You're taking advantage of, you're a woman, and you know he's not going to take your head off, especially at my request. Like, don't do that shit. That is not freaking cool.
So then maybe the toxic part of whether it goes towards a man or a woman is someone who is taking advantage of their natural advantages and pushing it too far.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps that's what the toxic part
I kind of
is.
like that.
Yeah.
I like that as a definition.
That reminds me of the story.
Acting like they have the advantages that they don't, and doing the same with them. Yeah.
Since we've established this is a more seasoned panel, you guys will probably remember the reference of the Lorena Bobbitt story back in the 90s. Everyone made fun of that guy. Could you imagine if it was the other way around? Like
just chopped off her titty and put it in the blender?
Yeah. You know what? I think that came from a comedian. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It didn't help that he ran out, got it sewn back on, and started doing porn and made a joke out of it.
He kind of,
It was hard to
degeneracy started.
Hey, he was making a broken egg into an omelet, you know?
Ultimate fuck you to her, yes.
It was hard to feel. It was hard to feel sorry for him after that. I was like, this
he was one of the first clout chasers. I would say he pioneered it.
Yeah. I'm still. It's still really profound. He got it sewn back on after she threw it in a fucking field. I'm still in awe.
He's like, I'm gonna go find that shit.
Although no more chicks cut off dicks after that. They're like, oh, okay, well, if they can just get it sewn back on, and then he turns into a celebrity, then that's really not punishment.
There's a celebrity. There's a guy who cut his own off, and then he became a celebrity.
Yeah, he cut his own dick off.
Things people do for attention. Jesus.
And what didn't we have Van Gogh?
Let's move on from the chopping of penises now, please.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Crossing my legs over here.
No more mutilation.
Trying to figure out how to embed an air tag in my dick now.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember I was doing had to go into people's offices. I think I was doing computer work at the time, but yeah, and you could see like the women like sort of talking about it, like whispering it, and you know, with a little smile on their face, like
Everyone doing that thumb joke.
right.
Oh yeah, the thumb joke.
So let me, as we close, and I want to give a humongous thank you to Huds and Jaren. You're welcome here anytime. Thank you so much for your contribution
We
to
passed.
this stream.
passed.
Okay. Yes, you did. You did. Because
Oh,
Huds was
good.
like, I'm bringing somebody. I was like, all right.
You're
All
like, oh no,
right.
yeah.
Okay, because he can get cussed out too.
I was like, okay, we'll see. But no, definitely welcome, open arms. Mikasa Sukasa, you're welcome back here. I do want to put everybody in the hot seat before we go. Okay. Do people with lower expectations opt for marriage? I want to know everyone's romantic status here. And if you are pursuing a relationship or you're in a relationship right now, what makes you think that you're not in that relationship because you're afraid to go out there and be the wild child that you want to be? And you're just like, fuck it, I'm here. Let me just do this shit with this chick or with this guy, right? What makes you think, or if you're pursuing right now, looking for a relationship, what makes you think maybe it's just not, you have lower expectations of life and you're looking for that supplement and to settle in just like the freaking guys on this couch? So what's everybody's status? I'd like to hear. And what are you looking for and not looking for? Or if you're in something, what makes you think you're not in that thing because you just have lower expectations and you gave up on skydiving?
I'm not lowering my expectations. Yeah, right.
Who's that?
Yes. Oh my
You remember
God.
that? You remember
Yes.
that?
Oh shit.
Lowered
Was that Mad
That's
TV
it.
or
Yeah,
In
yeah.
Living Color?
Mad TV. It
Mad
was.
TV. Oh shit, that was so good.
Yes, it
Look,
was.
For myself, I can't buy into the cynicism. I really do hold out for romantic love. I'm totally, here for it and open to it. I guess when I think about a partnership, I don't think about struggling with someone. I think about working together with someone. When you're up and they're down and, keeping it balanced and looking out for each other and everything like that and everything that goes with it. So, and I'm coming off of a 15-year marriage that, ended like over a year and a half ago. So that is where I stand. And it was that was a relationship where I could sort of have this central hub but go out and go buck wild and do whatever I wanted to, and I took full advantage of that. And it's sort of I've been there. It was fun,
But you had an open marriage, right,
Mhm.
David? Okay, so
That's what
that's
I'm
different. You
saying.
were ready to, you were that. Yeah, I think that's
But
a
even
different dynamic.
that sounds like some people's dream. It eventually becomes like, all right, whatever.
So if I gave you, before we pass the mic, if I dropped $1 million in your lap today, would you be looking for a significant other, or would you be like,
ain't shit, Jen? Of course I would be.
okay, 10 million?
Okay, 10 million.
Would you be looking to partner with someone?
Focus on my own agenda for a minute, but no. Ultimately, like I said, I like being in love, not with just anybody. And I do hold out for that. And if not,
Okay.
look, I've lived my life in a way where I'm going to be good regardless.
Okay.
So, but it would be nice if,
Okay.
it would be nice if there was someone special, that I could wrap that around.
Passing the mic.
Well, I'm in a situation, and I don't see it as a means of keeping myself happy because I'm bored with life. I see it as just another place. Like, I'm a creative type. I always have been. So for me, it's a place. It's just another thing that I can express myself in. And so I treat it as like a creative endeavor, not like this thing that like fulfills some hole in my life. So it's like, oh, I feel like taking up sculpture. I take up sculpture. I feel like taking up guitar. I'm going to take up the guitar. I feel like taking on a relationship. I'm going to take on a relationship. So that's the way I treat it.
Okay. Passing the mic.
I can hop in. I mean, when we're talking about the question, do people with lower expectations opt for marriage? I would say some do, honestly.
Mm,
And I think it's because they want that security. It's kind of what we were talking about before with that sense of self, understanding and loving yourself, being your own best friend first. They kind of make it a replacement. Now, when I talk about my own relationship status, so I I don't have a ring for her, not yet. I call her my fiance, and we've been together for years. And I mean, she was just telling my buddy when we were all hanging out this weekend, like, yeah, like we're not doing a traditional marriage. Like she's just like reverbing back exactly like what I'm thinking. You know, not a traditional marriage, not the big like spend $50,000, $100,000 on nonsense, and then also not getting the state involved. And it's interesting. For me, yes, I teach guys how to make it work out there in the dating game, and it's been easy for me, and it's well, not easy, but you had to learn that. But yeah, I could easily go out and I could just keep bagging girls, whatever, and just like play that game. But she brings so much more value to my life that is irreplaceable. That is why I want to pursue this and have children with her. So that's kind of where I stand on it. So I think that there are a lot of people that do have those lower expectations. I would actually think that it's a higher majority than like 50%. Like it's definitely more the majority that they just get married because they think they have to do it, going back to the tradition that we were talking about. But the ones that do it with the right intentions, those are the most beautiful relationships in the world.
hmm.
Yeah, which are very rare, but I'll hop in. So I would say the first question is the topic, right?
Mhm.
I believe that people do get married. Basically, I think it's been covered. It's just for safety, it's tradition, it's just what we're supposed to do. It's like um for me, it was like when I was growing up, it was always about college, 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 right? And I hated traditional school, right? And so I ended up going to college and going into debt for something I didn't even use, right? So a lot of times people get married for those reasons and they get in there like, so why am I here again? I feel like a lot of that happens. For me, like I guess single and icing on the cake is what I would say. Icing on the cake. And what that looks like is opposite of me because I'm a lot. I get on my nerves. I get on my nerves. So yeah, just the opposite of me.
Right. And the divorce rate proves that, Lily. A lot of people just do it because it's like, oh, this is what we're supposed to do. And then they're in, and then they're like, it comes with a husband. I just wanted the party and the ring and the dress and the bridesmaids.
I got
There's
this
no
stinky, toxically masculine dude around me. I don't want that.
yelling
But
at
that's
the
also
yell-
that false expectation that every day forward is going to be your wedding day, and not a
Right.
single
Yeah.
day is going to be your wedding day ever. Now you go to work. Now the work begins, and that's the day that no one wants to think about, along with aging.
Ugh.
All right, I'll go ahead and jump in. So to answer the first question on the topic, I've noticed, and I noticed this actually when I was quite a bit younger, and I believe it to be more and more true the more I see it out there. But it seems as though that once people get married, their lives kind of stop progressing individually. And as we've established on this panel in tonight's topic, it's because children are a burden. They're a lot of work. You're not going to plan the 3-week backpacking trip to the Mediterranean. You're not going to launch a new startup with your buddy. You're not going to get on a panel and do this at, whatever time it is here, 9:00 my time, whatever the hell it is. You're not going to do that with kids. So and I think comedians too have also mentioned that all of your hopes, desires, and dreams kind of go out the window, and it just kind of stagnate at that point. And I've noticed that with my own parents, that once we were all out of the house, all of a sudden they're like, what do we do? Like we have our own lives now. Like they call them empty nesters. And I had to help my
And
mom
they're
out for a bit.
older. They're older. They
Yeah.
have those fucking knees, Jaron. They have those fucking knees.
Yeah, shit. My parents had to create new identities, and it was weird. Like I got to an age where I
It's
became
true.
their adult friend, and I was kind of coaching them out because I was starting my life as an adult, but they were really starting their lives as an adult too. It's kind of like
It's
just
true.
freeze for 30 years with the kids. So I can see marriage doing that. I know personally in my situation, I've always found when I'm kicking ass and I have a lot of things going on, I'm excited. And every morning I wake up and I spring out of bed before the alarm goes off and I'm just ready to seize the day. Marriage is the last thing on my mind, but every now and then we hit those ruts or those slow periods where things are kind of stagnant and you kind of start second guess yourself like, shit, am I ever going to get a raise? Am I making more money again? Or, okay, like, is this it? Did I hit my peak? Am I now on the down curve? Then those thoughts start coming in the head. Like, well, maybe I should go back home. Maybe I should settle down. Well, yeah, there's that one girl. She's still single. And then again, you hit a growth curve again, then immediately, boom, it kind of goes out the window. And I think that in today's modern world, and this will segue into the way I run my dating life. So when I found the red pill, I was like any guy, like, oh, I unlocked the secrets. Like I can get all sorts of girls now, and ran up the notch count. And then you start feeling pretty empty pretty quick. And then, okay, I'm going to do the relationship thing. But I realize in today's modern society, I've got a lot going on, and the girls I'm attracted to have a lot going on, that putting those traditional expectations of like a quote unquote two-way monogamous traditional relationship on the table is actually quite difficult. And I've found that a lot of my relationships, when I do that, they suffer. So I do what I guess would be more appropriately called like the MLTR, multiple long-term relationship model, but I substitute the R for S, which is situationships. So I live here in Mexico City. It's a transient city. I've lived in Southern California before, transient area. I was backpacking around the Mediterranean with my brother for a bit. We stopped in transient cities, met people that were coming and going, and maybe they're tourists, maybe they're there on like a study abroad program, maybe they're doing a specialty for whatever their career is, but we're in a globalized, connected world. So really, for the way I live my life, to say like, okay, till death do us part, that's a lot of pressure on me, and that's pressure I have to put on the other person in the equation. So I've noticed that my best relationships are the ones where the girl lives in another state in Mexico, but her corporation sends her to the capital every 3 months. They do a week-long conference. She extends the weekend. She spends it with me. Like those are the most, like kind of like a recurring fling. And we just pick up where we left off. And I've done that with certain girls for years and years. I went to my undergraduate university down here when I was in my early 20s. And I think the second girl I ever slept with, she's my age now. So I've known her for 17 years, and she's going to be in town in the next couple of weeks. And we're just going to pick up right where we left off. And I know that sounds unusual to people, but if you live in a transient type city, or if you're the type that has a lot going on, and your girls do too, I found that kind of works best for me. And over the years, granted, we're not pegged at the hip day by day for a long period of time, but like I've still known the girl for almost 20 years. There's something there. We've grown together, and we're little snapshots in each other's lives. So I found that works best for me at this moment. I call it an MLTS, situationship instead of relationship.
Woo! So I got to give you the Willow Smith at the Red Table talk.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, ditto on a lot of what you said. Even when you said, like, when things slow down, right? This is very important to keep in mind, people watching. When things slow down, that's when I have that thought that you have, Jaron, like, oh, should I be in a relationship, blah, blah. But
and then it comes to your head. You're like,
yeah, but as soon as I get a call for a gig, like, Jen, you got booked for blah, blah, I'm like, yes, let's go. So you have to catch yourself that you're not just looking for comfort because you don't have enough popping off, because it comes and goes. Like, I'll be like, oh, look, maybe it'd be nice to go to the movies with somebody. And then I get a call. It's like, hey, fly out to here, or we're about to pay you this and that. I'm like, shit, who fucking ain't nobody think about a man. And that's how I catch myself and realize, like, oh, it's not a relationship you want. You just want more out of life. You want more quality out of life, right? But I love that idea. It's like, I have friends like that too that I've known for 20, 30 years. And every time we hook up, he's like, hey, what's that? I mean, right now I'm not fucking or anything. But I've been in those situations where it's like, these are great men. We hook up they have great careers. We hook up every, even 5 years or 3 years, or they have a convention and then they're in town. I like that. That works for me. That keeps me happy. And it keeps the pressure of, I have to be this doting wife 24 hours a day, and I have to dress a certain way, talk a certain way, and I can't talk to that guy or that guy. And my friend who I've known for 30 years can't call me after 9 p.m. because it's disrespectful to you. And oh my God, who are these people liking my pictures on Instagram? I don't have to deal with any of that. And it brings me so much peace. So I think it's like, like attracts alike. And those are like the people that I like hanging with. Those are the men that I like dealing with. They got a beautiful life going on, entrepreneurship or whatever. I got my thing, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle, and it takes the pressure off. both of us. And I'm not good in relationships. I default too quickly into doting wife and caregiver and nurturer, and then I start neglecting myself, and that turns into misery and resentment. And I don't want to do that anymore. Been there, done that. Didn't even get the T-shirt. I am good. And it doesn't come from bitterness. I love men. I've met amazing men. You guys rock. But I just don't want one in my house 24 hours a day. That makes sense.
Yeah, I get sick and tired of my girl too, but she won't ever leave. She lives here. Oh man.
You're going to get beat up. Passing the mic, no saint. What say you? Oops.
Comments. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry. No, I heard so many great comments. I'm forgetting what the question was. I did want to say, though, that I love Mexico City. I'm so jealous. I was
It's
there
a
last
nice place to
October.
be. I actually
I've been
missed
really wanting to
Mexico
go.
City the whole time I was in Europe. I was like, Europe's nice, but it's not Mexico. There's just
Mexico
something about
City is
Mexico.
really underrated
cool city.
on when it comes to people thinking of places to go, and I'm looking forward to going back. But anyway, so what are we talking about? So go ahead.
Do people with lower expectations opt for marriage? Same thing. We're just wrapping it up.
So I mean, I definitely think that there are people that get married with the expectations that, you know, their life, maybe their life's not exciting, and they think that other person is going to complete them. And as we were saying earlier, it's not going to be your wedding day every day, and then they get disappointed. I think you need to go into marriage, if you're going to get married at all, and realize that if you're not happy, there's a good chance you're not going to be happy married either. And you're going to end up, if that's your expectation, that someone's going to make you, because you always hear that, like, I just want somebody to make me happy. That's not somebody's job.
Make me happy.
That's your job. Your job is to make you happy.
That's a hostage situation right there.
You know, I'm just looking for somebody. I want a man that makes me. I want a woman that makes me happy. I want this. I want. When, you know, we just need to work on ourselves. But anyway, yeah, I think there are a lot of people that go get married because they're at a dead end. They're like, well, what's next? Well, you know, my life's here and I want to, you know, and some people are looking for families. I mean, there's different reasons, but I definitely resonated with that article. Like, you know, if for one reason or ever I'm not married, I don't think I need to be married. You understand what I'm saying? It's not something.
Yeah, so you wouldn't do it. Let's say hypothetically, if you were to get divorced, you wouldn't be looking for another wife eventually years down the line. Like, hey, I need to be a husband again.
No.
Why is that?
Because that's a great question. No,
Is it because you already have children?
No. What I'm saying is, I am pretty happy with, you know, in my marriage, or if I weren't in a marriage, I'd still be happy. You know what I'm saying? It's not the. Someone was saying earlier that someone should be like the icing or whatever, the icing on the cake, and not the whole cake. Yeah. Okay. Nice. So yeah, I believe that. If I'm not married, you know, I mean, my kids are getting grown now, and I'm content with either way. I'm, you know.
Do you want more? No, Saint. Do you want more?
Yes, I want more. I want more, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not. I don't know. I'm just. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say other than
I get what you already said. That made sense to me.
Well, it makes me think of something real quick. Like, Nosa, you mentioned something, the phrase, like, I don't remember exactly what you said, but self-healing, just getting your own shit together. I wonder if, again, with my wonderings, if many more people did this on their own, how would that affect relationships? Would there be drastically less relationships?
I think it would be.
Go into it looking to get something to help, you know, process things for them. And if you are in the right kind of mindset, you actually can use relationships like therapy, because it will bring out your shadow. it will bring out the dark side of you. And if you don't have the right kind of mindset, if you have too much ego protection and all that stuff, it'll fail. But you have to have the mindset to be able to like kind of look at things and go, oh, this is me. This is how I'm reacting. This is how I'm developing. What am I supposed to learn from the situation? Instead of just like blocking all that stuff, then it can absolutely grow. But let's just face it, that's not most people. But I wonder if people were to kind of get their own shit together and spend the time to do so instead of, you know, filling it with distractions and, you know, short-term gains and thinking that's their best life. I wonder if there were actually be a whole lot of relationships. There would probably be like,
it'd be a lot less.
It'd be a lot less, because that's what makes me not want to be in a relationship. And prior to me, really, as cliche and corny as it sounds, finding myself, prior to that, I was looking for that Band-Aid. Like, someone come love me. I want someone to be happy with. I want someone to go to the movies. I want come let me, you know what I mean, let's be together. Let's, you know what I mean? And
well,
then
I'm sure you're not rejecting it, but you're not in a state of need, right?
Right.
Well, I'm rejecting it as well, because I know what it entails. I know what relationships entail, and I don't want the responsibility is my thing. Like, they're a responsibility. That's the problem with me in relationships. And I'll meet guys and they're all gung-ho in the beginning. Oh, I don't care that you're a social butterfly. I don't care that you're on social media. I don't care that you show your cleavage. I don't care. And then it just morphs into, who is that guy? I'm like, I've known this guy 30 and then I'm starting to explain.
Cleavage?
Sometimes. And then I'm explaining and I feel the vein popping out here. And I'm just like, see, this is why I didn't want to get into any, this is why. And this is why it always happens. So I'm not wanting it. I'm not needing it, but it came through the process of finding myself, what makes me happy and what I want to do. Right. Prior to that, when I was hiding, like you said, I used relationships as therapy. I'll just have him love me, and then I don't have to love me, and I don't have to worry about loving me. He'll love me. He'll make me happy. Who the fuck needs to? I don't need to make myself happy. He's here. He'll, you know what I mean?
It's just bringing a puppy dog around that's going to love you no matter what, and you don't have to actually look at yourself in the mirror.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah,
amen.
and Jen, you say something that I totally agree with what you said when you said that. I mean, social butterfly. I'm a social butterfly. When you're in a relationship now, luckily with Erica, she never wanted to cramp my style. But when you have kids, you're in a relationship, that got bottled up a little bit for me, because I no longer could go run off and do what I wanted to do. Right. So I totally get what you say. So when I say that, yeah, if I'm not in a relationship tomorrow, I don't think I need a relationship, because I know how I am. I know I can go out and I'm a social butterfly. And if I were to take on another person, another relationship, suddenly I realize I've seen where that can lead. That can lead to where I can't do that. So that's, I guess, where I was coming from with that. You kind of jostled my memory a little bit of what I was trying to say, but
yeah. And listen, some people do very, 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 very rarely needle in a haystack. Some people do relationships great, and they are stellar at it. I'm just not that. I'm in a very, very selfish phase of my life, and I'm not going to bring that to anybody else, because men like attention and they have egos. And right now I'm not ready to spoon feed an ego. Haran, what say you? Where are you now romantically? Do people with lower expectations opt for marriage? Are you opting for marriage? Are you interested? What are you doing?
I think people are essentially groomed to be the best version of themselves for the purpose of marriage. I think most people are, that is the intention. I mean, one of the things when you see about, even with men, with young men, when they become successful, when they grow into themselves, one of the first things that people do is ask if they're in debt to anyone. Who are you courting? Who do you owe? Who has their hand in your pocket? And if no one has their hand in your pocket as a man and you have power, then no one trusts you. You know what I mean? No one particularly trusts you, especially if you're in high positions and so on. But I say all that to say, for me personally, would I ever get married? I don't think so. I don't know. I spent a very large portion of my life being extremely selfish. I am very much a taker. I'm learning to give. I'm an only kid. You know what I mean? I see things in the world. If I want it, I'm going to have it. You know what I mean? And in my later years, I'm learning the importance of playing well with others. I'm learning the importance of family. There was quite some time when I thought family was overrated. To some degree, I still do. In the number of the relationships I've been in, I could have been, solid if my head was in the relationship, if my head was in the game. 9 times out of 10, it wasn't. I was concentrating on the next opportunity, this, that, and the third, my career, so on. So I really couldn't give myself to the relationship in terms of the way the woman wanted to. But now in my older years, I'm realizing that in the end, when it's all said and done, I want to be known for being a good friend. I don't want to be known. I don't want to be known for making white people a whole bunch of fucking money. I don't want to be known for slaying this. I don't want to be known for all that. All that shit is really this. Once you get to the top of these mountains, you just kind of look around and you're just looking for the next mountain. That's just the way my mind works. I just look for the next mountain. But it's a different thing when you've touched people's lives, man, because that's true legacy. Touch people's lives and you help them become better versions of themselves. I mean, slaying is cool. Being James Bond is cool. It's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? Most of the time. But in the end, helping someone get to the next level, that's what's really it's all about.
Haran, I just need to say, there were some crazy things that happened in my life not too long ago, back in 2017, and I was on the verge of ending myself, and I got more into this coaching and the dating coaching, and I told myself, you know what, if I can just change one person's life, then it makes my life worth it.
Mhm.
And once I did, I felt such an overwhelming amount of peace. And then I was like, if I could do it once, I could do it again.
Mhm.
And then I continued to do that. And that really is, I mean, that's where my love comes as well. So I just wanted to say, I just really appreciate you saying that, because I come from the same piece.
Yeah, that hit me in the feels too, because I take a lot of pride and it's very fulfilling for me to leave things better than I found them, even on a tiny scale. Even if it's a little advice or something, that I find that more fulfilling than, again, having a ogre in my living room yelling at the game. Sorry, guys. But with that said, this was absolutely amazing and educational and eye-opening. I do want to say this. Haran made a great point. We're literally reared and raised and conditioned to grow up and be a good spouse. I know I heard that throughout my life. My mother was like, what kind of wife are you going to be? And men like this and men like that, and have your underwear like this and make sure all the faucet and everything is shiny. We're reared to be a great significant other. Be careful raising your children that way. They do it to boys too. You're going to be a man one day. You're going to have your own household and you're going to have to run it. You know what I mean? So we have to be careful how we raise our children. We have to raise our children to be happy and self-sufficient and amazing individuals that are adventurous and, you know what I mean, just want a great piece of life. And then if they fall in love somewhere down the line, that's a different situation. But we should not make that the sole purpose for rearing them and them, being adults. You're going to be a husband one day. You're going to be a wife one day. What else is out there, Mom?
And then
What
if it
else?
doesn't happen, then they feel like they're failures and things like that.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right, guys, this was amazing. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. This is why I love doing this. No, I won't have 1 million subs in a year like pearly things. I'm not telling men what they want to hear, but I appreciate this. You know what I mean? This fills my heart. Again, gentlemen, Jaren and Huds, please come back. We're on all week except for Sundays. Thank you so much, Mr. Justin. You always have eye-opening commentary, even when it's not about fucking and whipping bitches. We appreciate you every time you're here. Okay, Block, fall back. So we can debrief really quickly. Chat, thank you for holding me down, and thank you for the super chats, and thank you for your input as well. There were a lot of good comments. Hit that like and subscribe on your way out for Mama. Don't forget to support the show. If you're catching a replay, Cash App on the Block with Jen. Good night, guys.
Good night.